Happy New Year. Hello, whiskey folk. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first vPub of 2021. Welcome to another Thursday night. I'm really excited to get the year started, hanging out with some beautiful whiskey folk and dedicated barflies. Welcome, everybody. My goodness, that's incredible just how many of you were waiting. I know I was just a few seconds late, only a minute or so late, but it's wonderful to see you all, and it's wonderful to get the vPubs back underway again after just the shortest of breaks. The last vPub was just a wee bit over 2 weeks ago, and I've been missing you all. There was a different theme slotted in for tonight, but I had an idea to share it with a guest, so I kind of pushed it a wee bit down the road, and I pulled in something that I've been meaning to do for a wee while. If you were watching the vPubs maybe 2.5 years ago, I sat down one night and I went through what I believe to be at that point in time, my favourite 12-year-old malt whiskies, my top 5, if you like. And it wasn't really to nail down or commit to top 5. Because, depending on mood, depending on moment, all of these kind of things, depending on batch even, potentially, price, rebrandings, all of these things, you can easily kind of shuffle it around. But I wanted to put forward 5 12-year-old whiskies that I was enjoying at that point in time. And why 12-year-old? Well, it's just a good kind of lens, let's say, a kind of good category to look at Scotch whisky as a whole through. And of course, it's unfair to a lot of producers out there. Unstable internet connection. That cannot be the case. Tell me I'm live. I pull up my live monitor. Am I back? Come back, Roy. Okay now, Roy, it's working. Okay. That's not a good way to start the year, is it? Now, I've checked everything and it's fine. For some reason, the Wi-Fi is trying to connect. There's a cable plugged in. Anyway, let's run with it and let's hope. I'm going to need to monitor this window and listen to you guys and make sure that you're hearing me. Need to put 50p in the meter and give it a thud and we'll be grand. Aye, a 50p in the router and the internet connection. Apologies for that. I've no idea what that is. It's just a bizarre dropout. It's maybe a service issue. Hopefully I'm back and we're okay now. As long as you can hear me. Where was I? I was talking about why I was choosing 12-year-old. I chose it because it's a good standard. It used to be considered back in the day quite a mature age statement on a malt whiskey. Whereas nowadays it's entry. 12 years old is an entry point. It's where we kind of start our whiskey journey a lot of the time. Think of Glenturret 12-year-old. Think of Glenlivet 12-year-old. Products like that. There are people out there doing 10-year-old. There are people out there doing 11, actually, nowadays, and 13-year-old. All in that category. But there's just so much choice available right now that you've kind of got to refine it. You've kind of got to make some exceptions. You've got to help and find a way to narrow it down. And then you can just use a 12-year-old category to talk about various concepts in Scotch whisky, to talk about different casks, and to talk about price, and to talk about value and how that's different from price. And to talk about, you know, not just my favourites, but a lot of the favourites that you guys are enjoying as well. So I'll say this just now, that even though I'm going to share with you my favourite 12-year-olds as of 2021, share yours in the comments underneath. If you're watching the replay, especially in the comments underneath, share it in the live chat if you're watching live tonight, and get a bit of discussion going, because it helps anybody that's coming into Scotch whisky. It helps them along their journey when there's other malt fans, other whisky fans really engaging and connecting with certain whiskies. It also gives me the option to kind of talk about the same topic again sometime down the line through the lens of a non-age statement category, or 10-year-olds, or something else. So the reason that I'm talking about 12-year-old tonight is for the same reason I did it 2.5 years ago, but to talk about how it's changed in that time. You would think that not much has changed, and then you look into it and you realise an awful lot has changed. However, these are my favourite top 5 that I shared with everyone in September of 2018. Number 5 was this Caol Ila, 12-year-old Caol Ila, 43%, an Islay standard. I think one of the most still, and it's not under the radar. Everybody knows about Caol Ila 12 now, but it's one of the most consistent, one of the most solid, one of the most reliable 12-year-old whiskies, and it's still affordable as well. 43%. That won't be staying in the top 5 tonight, and I'll get to that in a wee minute. The reason why, it's not because I've gone off it or I like it any less. I'm just not going to be talking about peated whiskies. I think peated whiskies deserve their own session. So another way to kind of thin it out a little bit was to get rid of the Caol Ila 12-year-old. Then it's Loch Lomond 12, Deanston 12. Everybody's talking about Deanston 12. Everybody loves Deanston 12. Most people love Deanston 12. And it seems to, for me, be getting a wee bit better every year. Then from the same producer, coincidentally, we've got Bunnahabhain 12-year-old. That was in the number 2 slot, and that was very difficult for me to place, of which was my favourite back then. And number 1 was actually quite easy for me. It was Kilkerran 12. Sometimes I'll reach for anything else in the line other than a Kilkerran 12. It's a completely mood-driven thing. But if I was to take one whiskey with a 12-year age statement, and that was the only 12-year-old I was to drink from here forward, that Kilkerran 12-year-old is a very solid prospect. That's why I put it in number 1 slot. Anyway, thank you all for hanging out. Thank you for getting me through this wee technical hitch that we had right at the kickoff, right at the start of things. I'm going to jump into the lounge, pull it up again, and welcome some of you beautiful whiskey folk and dedicated barflies. So good to have you here. So good to have your support. I love my Thursday nights. Connoisseur is in, my friend from Aberdeen, it turns out. I know you're a Pole, but you're up in Aberdeen, and I've been speaking to you over the last couple of weeks. It's a pleasure to have you in tonight. Soon enough, nobody will release non-age statements by law, and an age statement will be obligatory. I doubt that very much. I can't imagine that ever happening. But I think it would be nice to, and we might touch on that in a very some vPubs coming up very soon. Later in January, for example, we'll be talking about that whole age statement thing and what's permissible to be put on the label, why that's existed and why it's kind of appropriate, and then why it's completely not appropriate and it's quite absurd, honestly. We'll be talking about subjects like that, but it's good to have you in, my friend. Falsgraf is here, Whiskey in the Six, Rob is here. Wonderful to have you in, hanging out with us, Rob. Superb to see you, my friend. I got your Glenallachie samples. They're actually sitting here. I stuck wee labels on them. The one with the cool little chain and the coin on it is going to Scott Monroe Kilted Moose, and I've got the other one here. Wonderful, wonderful drams. Just a shame that it took so long to get here, because I was supposed to be enjoying that on a live stream with you to celebrate your 10K sub celebration. Rob, it's always a pleasure to have you in, my friend. Marcus Kreitner is here. I hope you're doing well, Max. I hope you're keeping well and on your road to recovery. I know you're off the whiskey for a couple of weeks while you recover, but we're looking forward to getting together with you, having a dram in your hand again. James McGoran is in. Good to see you, James, over in Sweden. We've got Hoyt as well from the States, Teddy KGB. Teddy, there was a comment from you I wanted to keep up, but with that kick in the connection, I think I lost it. But you were predicting my top 5, and I think it was a very sarcastic, but nonetheless funny list that you were predicting. Callum Muir is here. Good to see you, Callum. Hearing you loud and clear. I'm very grateful that you're back. Bruno Mello is saying, good evening, Barflies. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Aquaviti. Good to see you, and as well from Portugal. Bruno, good to have you in. Desi Leland is here. Good to have you, Desi. Time for a dram. Gregor is in, one of our moderators tonight. Gregor, always a pleasure to have you, my friend. Let's scroll down a wee bit. Reb Mordecai is here. Craigellachie 13 is the best 12-year-old baker's dozen. You can't have a best 13-year-old. There's just, when we talk about millions of choice in Scotch whisky, there aren't many 13-year-olds. So you will see later on tonight that I've included Craigellachie 13 in the 12-year-old mix. I think it's a very worthy mention, a good one to talk about. Odd Johan Lundberg is here. Good to see you, my friend. Hellswood is here. Excellent, Helen. Good to see you as well. I hope Andy's sat next to you as usual. Andy C, Luna Aaron. Karen is here as well. Deanston 12. She's raving about Deanston 12 too. Karen, it's always a pleasure to have you in. Blair Conrad is in. Jimmy, you should check your inbox. I've sent you a link to actually join the green room here. You can drop in the background. Jimmy Legg is going to join us for a wee game, a visit to Speyside tonight, a wee bit later on. I hope he is, at least. That was the plan. I hope he's sticking to it. Jan-Paul van der Hoven is in as well. Good to see you, my friend. That looks like a new name. Contentious Hackery. 300 watchers, but only 79 likes. We can do better. Thank you for your gentle reminder. I have to say, it's nice to get the likes and things like that. Only give it a thumbs up if you are actually enjoying yourself and you're appreciative of being able to hang out in the pub, I guess. But it does help the content, and it does help the channel. Nice to welcome you in, Contentious Hackery, and thank you very much for encouraging folk to leave a wee like. Russell Whiskey is saying, I used to love HP12, but that ship has sailed. You would still recommend HP12 as a gateway whiskey for people coming into whiskey, no doubt, wouldn't you? I feel the very same about it. You know, if you go out and it's been a long time since we've been out, let's be honest. But in that kind of scenario, if you're in someone else's house and they pour you an HP12, you're in a restaurant or a pub and that's all they have, you're happy to sit and drink it. But there's so much more in the journey ahead, so much more engagement that makes HP12 seem a wee bit soft and light. Tom Lawrence is in. Excellent to see you, Tom. Always good to welcome you in. Aquavita. It's amazing that service dropouts are more common occurrence. You've had a good run, all things considered. I usually go belt and braces, Tom. So I've got the Wi-Fi set up to connect, and I've also got as a backup, and I've got a patch cable plugged in. And as soon as the patch cable, through any kind of issues, through somebody slamming a door on it, or from it getting yanked, or any issues with the actual cable itself, it should just seamlessly switch over to Wi-Fi. But we struggled tonight, and I think it was probably a service issue. And the more and more people are on doing video and content online and everything, yes, the more saturated the networks are becoming. Aquavita, you've got a new member by the looks of it. This looks like somebody has joined the Barflies, is that right? And it looks like I've missed a super chat from Carl Crafts. Carl, that's a new name as well, saying, even and Roy, I pick the vPub up on the replay every week, but wanted to sneak into the live portion to buy you a wee dram. Thanks for your fantastic content and all that you do, Slanchivata. Carol, that's really wonderful. I'm very grateful that you do normally pick it up on the replay, and I'm grateful to everybody that picks this up on the replay. I'll mention that because of the support from the Aquavita Barflies, the people who have joined the YouTube membership here, the vPubs will not be monetized. So if you are picking it up on the replay, and if you're watching it and pausing it and coming back and picking it up in chunks, no one has to sit through any ads. Thanks to support like that, Carl. Thank you very much for your virtual drama, friends. Cheers to you. And I know what that drama is I've picked up. Still wonderfully fruity, buttery, lightly spiced. Little tiny lick of kind of smoke only adds a kind of savoury note, and that Campbelltown funk. It's Coquerin 12 in my glass. And the reason that I've got these poured out, I've got I've actually finished my Deanston. I had that as I was sipping, and I can't pour it anymore. I can't recharge the glass because, well, I can, but I'd have to break the seal on that bottle, and I've got far too much open. So if I don't need to open it just now, I'll save it for a while. But I loved my time with the Deanston tonight as well. Wonderful stuff. So I've had the Deanston, I've got the Bunnahabhain 12 in the glass, and I've got the Kilkerran 12 in the glass as well. Shane Leahy's in. Good to see you, Shane. I wonder if I am lagging. I wonder if I'm a wee bit behind because of that issue. Heng Chung is in with another dram to say, to lessen the pain of throwing away your last sip of Benriach and your latest recycled reviews. Do you know, I only noticed that when I was editing. I'll talk about the recycled review quickly before we get into the theme tonight, because I want to just say thanks to everybody. The most successful kind of video that's come out of this channel in terms of engagement and people picking it up and watching it, in terms of feedback, in terms of views, in terms of likes, in terms of everything. It's got a lot to do with the fact that people are available and they're kind of sitting at home and they can probably catch the content as it comes out. But I want to say thank you to everybody for the amazing comments and feedback and support. And when it started to come in, I said, I'm going to make a promise. And this is kind of a semi-New Year's resolution. I'm going to try and engage and reply to every comment that comes in on the vPubs, the new videos that come out, the vPub videos. On the replay, if you leave a comment, I will engage with it. But the same also for the new edited content coming out as well. I'm going to try and catch every comment. It's very tough to do. And Mark is saying you don't seem too far behind. I'm very glad, Mark. And Hans Waldman is in. Hans has updated the Wikipedia entry for Hans Waldman. That's Alexander I'm talking about, so that I can go and have a wee read and understand who Hans Waldman actually is. I think you mentioned he was Swiss, Alexander. Multi-Mission Menno is here. Good to have you, Menno. Good to have you. We've actually got some quiz questions tonight that's come in. It's not a Menno quiz tonight, but Eric Cunliffe from Canada has sent me some quiz questions, and it was 10 quiz questions structured exactly like the Aquavitae quiz at the end. And I sat and I took the quiz and I sent the answers back, and I did quite well out of it. I won't tell you which ones I got wrong. I did get a couple wrong. And I thought that would make a good quiz, Eric. How about we use this for the first vPub of 2021? So it's Eric's questions that we're going to be using tonight. So stay a wee bit for that. It's difficult to know where it's going to be pitched. Easy, somewhere in between, hard. I don't know. But it's good questions, interesting questions regardless. Young goes in as well. Good to see you, Young. Good to have your support recently as well, my friend. Wonderful to see you in here. Greg's Whiskey Guide is saying, yes, it's 11:02 p.m. here, Roy, just to let you know. Okay, I have that. I'm behind because you've already put that in a couple of minutes ago, but I think I've caught up. And Falsgraph is saying, this resolution is a reason to give only comments I feel are really important. I mean, that's the thing, but you can't. It's almost like the chatter in a pub. This is the pub. This is the vPub. So you're having a direct conversation with somebody opposite you, but it's difficult. You've got to kind of tune in on what they're saying, and that's where you're looking here. The person that you're having the conversation with here in the chat, you've kind of got to look for their name coming up again so that you can kind of speak over the chatter to speak directly to them. It's the exact same as being in a very busy pub. Although I have to admit, being over, well, it's coming up on a year, I guess, for the last time I was in a pub. It's brutal. It's really brutal. Jimmy, like I was saying, recently Ralphie has said that malt whiskey should not be forgettable. That is how I measure, how I want to measure my whiskey. Yeah, I would agree with that. When you're sitting and you're analysing whiskey, you're looking for character and you're looking for really enjoyable flavour and hooks. If you're in a social situation where the whiskey becomes secondary, it's about the people and it's about the company and the moment and the environment, I think it's okay to sip something that's a bit more pedestrian. We never need to go bad. We never need to go ugly. We never need to go poor. We don't need to drink bad quality, but it's okay to sip things that are a bit simple from time to time when we're really not in the glass. We're more about in the environment. But it's malt whiskey we're talking about. it should be characterful. It should be definable. It should be special. I agree. Multi-Mission Menno is saying almost 400 in. My goodness, I'm under a bit of pressure tonight then to bring some content. See, as we're at the head of the stream right now, I want to do something. I want to just acknowledge something, because this is amazing. If you're starting a whiskey club, I will help you start your whiskey club. Wherever you are in the world, if you're trying to find like-minded folk to get together and meet up and share whiskey together and have a kind of people-focused, people-first whiskey shared experience and set up a wee club, whatever you want to do, I will help you do that. But not all clubs are the same. And if you're going to be a whiskey club, please be like the Glasgow Whiskey Club. I'm not going to get emotional at this one. I had the Good Spirits Company appear at the door yesterday unannounced, and I'm not expecting anything. I haven't ordered anything from Good Spirits Company recently. I was surprised to see them. And they said, "Oh no, we've got a bottle here for you, Roy." I said, "Okay," and I opened it up, and wrapped in tissue is this bottle of a Evan Williams single barrel vintage. And a note: "Hi Roy, in the normal course of events, somebody on the committee would be keeping track of members' big birthdays, but 2020. So, very belatedly, on behalf of all the members of Glasgow's Whiskey Club, happy birthday." The note is signed from Roddy, who you know very well. It's fantastic. I had a big birthday this year, of course I did. And like everybody that had something to celebrate this year, it had to be cancelled. It had to be postponed, not cancelled. But I had no idea that the club was kind of monitoring big birthdays and things like that, and that they would go and do something like that for their members. Glasgow Whiskey Club, thank you for everything that you've done for me in my whiskey journey, for everything that you continue to do, despite lockdown, despite all the troubles that we've had to face. Thank you for keeping the flame alive and keeping the whiskey flowing. Thank you for this as well. Superb Whiskey Club. People are first. They put people first. Like I say, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, maybe you're just going to an event or a tasting or a distillery tour or a whiskey trip, a festival, whatever it is. Maybe you actively want to get a quiz going, a club going. You can either join the Aquaviti Barflies group on Facebook. That is supposed to be why that Barflies page exists, to connect people in real life. It's been difficult for a year, I know. Or reach out to me directly, tell me where you're located. And I can start to work out if I know if there's anybody close or local to you, or I can just mention it on the chat for people who are watching in the background and maybe not commenting. Eric Waits, Whiskey Study is saying, "I'm working and listening, so I can't comment and watch." Eric, I'm just very glad to have you in, my friend. Wonderful to have you. And Rob's bought me a dram as well to say happy belated birthday, my friend. It was quite a while ago. Nobody send me birthday drams, Rob. I'm very, very grateful that you did. Thank you for your dram, my friend. It's always a pleasure to raise a glass with you, Rob. But it was quite a while ago, and I think it was just because of the disruption of last year that certain things that the Glasgow Club would normally do when we're together was let slip, and they're kind of catching up now. But Rob, thank you so much for your virtual dram. Cheers, my friend. It was a wonderful birthday, despite it. Not least because of the community. So let's get this 12-year-old thing on the go. Let's start talking about 12-year-old whiskies. Let's start talking about the changes that have happened in the last 2.5 years and what has come out to threaten the positioning of these 5 that's over my right shoulder: the Caol Ila 12, the Loch Lomond 12, Deanston 12, Bunnahabhain 12, and Kilkerran 12. Because there's been a few new ones. There's been a few rebrands. There's been a few relaunches. Different things have come along. I'm the same as anybody out there in the community. I cannot try every whiskey that comes along. I do my very best. Sometimes it's a sample that intrigues me. Sometimes I just confidently buy it because I feel like it's going to be a good experience. And other times I let other people's recommendations, people that I trust, people that I'm interested in, kind of lead me a little bit as well. And that's why it's important for us all to get input from as many sources as possible. Don't just listen to one man's opinion. Don't just listen to me tonight. Look at what the people are saying in the chat. Some of them agree with me, some of them don't. Look at what other friends, other whiskey folk are saying. Look at other reviewers out there and YouTube and beyond. But I'm going to share 12-year-old whiskies tonight that I think are worthy to talk about. If you don't hear me mention whiskies tonight, it doesn't mean that they're not worthy, but there will be some that you'll not only not hear me mention tonight, but just generally you won't hear me mentioning in the vPub, because there are some poor, cynical, bland, boring, awkward, ugly, or just clumsy releases out there. Some of them are trading on a brand, some of them are selling themselves cheap, but they're just not getting it. Malt whiskey is a precious thing that we've been given. And I know that I'm a geek and an enthusiast, and it's not my whiskey, I don't make it. But I'm precious about it nonetheless. I think that's okay. And I think that when you're making malt whiskey and you're putting malt out there, make it as good as you can make it, price it fairly, don't add anything and don't take anything away. Al, thanks for your time. Answering my questions this week, Roy. Much appreciated. Al, thank you very much for your drama, friend, but you're welcome. Cheers, Al. And thank you very much for your recent Patreon support as well, Alan. I'm very, very, very grateful to all my patrons. It's amazing. I'm going to start with a disappointment. This is something I got a sample of. I got a sample from the community of a 3rd edition release of this whiskey from a producer that I respect and I rate, genuinely do. One of the biggest, one of the most famous brands out there, but they still managed to bring really good whiskey. So why am I sharing a disappointment with you? Well, because recently you've heard me talk about this producer in a very positive light. I'm talking about Glenmorangie. I think their 10-year-old, despite it being at 40%, there's nothing wrong with that. As a gateway whiskey, bringing people into whiskey where alcohol, ABV, strength, neat spirit is the biggest barrier to enjoyment. 40% ABV is fine. Richard Agnew's bought me a dram as well. Grateful for you in the whiskey community. Just finished my first year of my whiskey journey. Richard, wonderful stuff. I'm sure it's been a blast this year, but the road ahead is going to be every bit as nice. Cheers, Richard. Well, I know what that is. I'm going to keep that. It's amazing. Cheers, Richard. Thank you. I love the 10-year-old Glenmorangie. And I also like the fact that they have that solid ex-bourbon, or let's say ex-bourbon and refill cask, base 10-year-old. That's their core. It's their keystone. It's their foundation product. Then they play and they do other things with yeast and fancy casks and part of their limited releases and things. But their core range has got that solid 10-year-old. And then they have finishes. So they have the Lasanta, that's a sherry cask finish, Quinta Ruban, which is port cask. And they have Sauterne, which is their Nectar d'Or. So they have 12-year-old, which kind of more or less is, you assume that it's 10 years, it's the 10-year-old, and then a further maturation of something like a year or two in these additional casks in order to bring those extra products. The Quinta Ruban has had a nice boost recently, 46% ABV, 14-year age statement now, so it's gone up in age. That's encouraging stuff. When it was first launched, it looked to be the same price. I've noticed it's a couple of pounds more expensive now. It's broken the £50 barrier. Fine. It's got older. The Lasanta is the same. It's 43%. It's a little bit weaker. But the Lasanta is still a good thing to recommend to someone who's coming into whiskey and you don't want to give them a blackout sherry bomb. It's just a kind of nice, balanced kind of sherry maturation. The Lasanta, I think, is a reasonable shout for that. Greg has bought me, no, he hasn't. He's just joined the Aquavitae Barflies. Welcome to the community, Greg. You're now welcome to use all the wee custom emojis, those Glencairn glasses, those recycling bins, those Barflies, whatever you want to use. But Greg, thank you and welcome on board. The Nectar d'Or was a 12-year-old. I say was, I'm using past tense. After my time with that sample from the community, that lovely, I don't often like sweet whiskies, and this sample of the 3rd edition was sweet, but there was a nice dryness to it as well. And it wasn't overcooked, it was just a nice balance. And I thought, this is good. And I looked at it and it was 46%, and I thought, nice. I'm just going to get one of these. And I ordered one and it arrived. and I got the 4th edition. So I should be considering Glenmorangie Nectar d'Or in this lineup. I would have considered it, poured it, and thought about it. But this is not a 12-year-old product anymore, which is a crying shame. Why would you lose the age statement? I've only had 2 drams out of this. My take on it is that this is much more oaky and overt. The cask is much more overt from that sample and from my memory of having this whiskey in the past. I think what could be the case is that maybe, and this is just me, I'm a layman, I'm just shooting, I'm not even sure. I think it could be the case that this has ended up in a more active range of casks this time. It's more intense. And maybe they've decided that it doesn't need to get to that 12-year point. It's ready now. And if they leave it in there any longer, it's going to be too okay. Because this is a very intense experience now compared to the previous dry, crisp, lightly sweet one. This is sweet, but the dominating thing here is oak, and that's a surprise to me. I don't know what the age is. I can't tell you anything more about it. There's nothing else on the bottle other than the fact that it's the Nectar d'Or at 46%. And that's a shame, because I was beginning to connect and enjoy Glenmorangie. Why would you bump up the age statement on one of your core range, keep the other one the same, and then lose it on another one? Let's say it's 11 years old, 10 years old, 9 years old. Put it in the bottle. Say the words. Say the words. There's no shame in the age statement changing one edition to the next. That's okay. It's even easier to keep track of what edition you're sipping. I'm sure there's justification. I'm sure there's a reason for it. But to me, I bought that and I didn't spend any time looking into it. It's my fault. It's the 4th edition, no age statement. Multi-Mission is saying what makes it even weirder is that Glenmorangie isn't exactly a small distillery. It is strange. Crestmere is saying had the Glenmo 12 versus Balvenie 12 single barrel, both were good. 1 point advantage to Balvenie. I wonder, the single barrel. Okay, the Balvenie 12 single barrel is going to be much better, Crestmere, than the double wood, which is a little bit more simple, I think. Sunday Evening Scotch Michael is saying their whole lineup is getting wonky. The Quinta Ruban went to 14, Nectar went non-age statement, and La Santa stayed 12. Odd. It was nice when they had 3 12-year-olds for folks to try. And it's interesting as well that the ABV changes, because without any statement on the bottle about chill filtration policies and things like that, you're left kind of, if you're standing there and with limited time with a bottle in your hand in a shop, or maybe you're thinking of putting one in a basket on an online checkout because we're the days that we're living in, you've kind of got to kind of make your calls, and it's difficult when you've got these confusing, changing, switching up things. I know it's small, I know it's quite a petty complaint, but I'm surprised that they've lost their age statement. Glenmorangie 10-year-old, through all the troubles of Scotch whisky, maybe, as you quite rightly say, Menno, because of the depth of stocks that they had, that 10-year-old original from Glenmorangie never lost its age statement when the Glenlivet did. When other competitors out there, when peers were losing age statements, Glenmorangie kept theirs. Don Rance is saying he's just dropping in to say hello, stuck at work, and we'll catch up on the replay. Donald, it's wonderful to see you. And my friend Greg's Whiskey Guide is saying best ones so far for me are the first distillery finishing in Sauternes in history. Sorry, guys, a French one. Glenamore. Okay, yeah, a French distillery you've talked about with me directly a couple of times. And I think there's another one that you enjoy as well. You were talking about, is it Amaric as well? Greg, you enjoy? Reb is saying the Balvenie 12 single cask is pretty excellent. The trouble is, with single cask, we have to bear in mind is that for every excellent one, you get one that's slightly lesser excellent, one that's even more excellent. That's the issue with single barrel, single casks, which I think is a fine concept, honestly speaking. So nothing from Glenmorangie to trouble the 12-year-old lineup. Let's move quickly on to the next one. What I should do actually is just define some of the reasoning behind me cutting some of the whiskies. You might say, Roy, why are you not talking about this one or that one? And there's a couple of reasons for it. Because I lost my connection earlier, I'm afraid I need to reconnect in order to share this with you. But it's worthy because I want to tell you what I've included tonight and give you some justification for the things that I have not included. There we go, I'm in. And I should now be able to share my screen and show you some reasoning here. That wasn't too long, was it? We're in. We seem to be up and running again. I'm very glad that the Wi-Fi and the connection generally seems to be holding up a wee bit. Okay, here's some exclusions that I've decided in order to help me narrow it down a wee bit. Anything under 43%, I'm not even going to mention. I'm not going to talk about. So yeah, Glenmorangie, it's a 10-year-old anyway, but anything that's at 40%. So for example, there's going to be some of your favourite producers out there that are bringing along a decent product. Let's consider Anok 12, for example, which is an excellent whiskey, but it's at 40% ABV. So while I think it's worthy, in order to kind of focus more on my audience, on the people that are tuning in for what they enjoy and what I enjoy, we're kind of looking for something that's a bit more active, that's a bit more interesting. So we're looking at things that are 43% and above, honestly, preferably 46%, because then we've got the reassurance that it's very, very likely to be unchill. It's not guaranteed to be non-chill filtered, but it's very likely to be. Another thing I've discounted, despite my last one having a Caol Ila 12, and that Caol Ila is obviously going to be the first to disappear, is to remove peat, because I think a peat discussion deserves its own session. And it doesn't necessarily have to be tied to age statement. I've also decided that any special edition that come out at 12 years old that are cask strength, the obvious one, which would be a big, big hitter, is Springbank's 12-year-old cask strength. There aren't going to be any cask strength releases here tonight. These are standard core range products at a more traditional ABV presentation. And again, limited release. So yes, Springbank 12 comes out twice a year. It's limited release. It does sell out. So I think I would discount it for that reason as well. But also just generally, there's going to be a couple of limited releases, at least one or two I might touch on with you if I had time. I've discounted. Let's go through some honourable mentions, 43%ers for a start. Tomatin 12, I think, is worthy. Glengoyne, this is the new packaging that you're seeing here. It's gone through a rebrand, but the liquid is still the same, and the pricing stayed stable as well. There's a 10-year-old version as well that's exclusively ex-sherry. The 12-year-old, I think they use some bourbon maturation in there as well in the vatting, but the 12-year-old is an elegant and solid whiskey. A really quite interesting whiskey that not a lot of people touch on or talk about is the Glen Grant. Not a lot of it's sold in the UK. It tends to go more to Mediterranean Europe and Italy. But that 12-year-old Glen Grant, while it's quite a shy and quiet whiskey, tight at first approach, spend time with it. It's actually got a lot to offer. If you can pick up Glen Grant 12 at a decent price, it's actually worthy, as is Tamdhu. Tamdhu, they do fantastic things with sherry casks, whether it's American oak or European oak. Tamdhu, again, another 43% product, which is better. It's 2 years older and 3% more ABV than the previous 10-year-old that replaced. Tamdhu is a worthy product. Got a couple more worthy ones to share with you as well. Let's see what you think about that. Helen is saying that Glengoyne 12, great dram for the price, absolutely. And Matthias is saying, love the Glengoyne 12. I think the Glengoyne 12 has got better over time. Could be my palate is changing. That's very much a part of it all. And Jimmy Legg is disagreeing and saying that the Glen Grant is forgettable whiskey. I think it's very subtle, and I think it's shy and quiet on first approach. And it could do with having a bit more overt presentation, honestly, to show Glen Grant off a wee bit better. But it is what it is. And we are not the market for that Glen Grant. It is not something that I would be annoyed to have in the collection. I actually quite enjoyed it. Okay, let's share some other exclusions with you as well. 3 of these will not be included, one of them will be tonight, and these are where non-chill filtration has been stated. So we're starting to get closer to a much more natural presentation here. We've got Loch Lomond 12. Interestingly, that's not the standard Loch Lomond in that green labelling. That's the Inchmurrin. So this is from their straight neck pot still. This is their fruity expression, and it is very fruity. It's also very sweet, and I would say that somebody that's put off by a very sweet whiskey, somebody like me, so if it's lots of first fill bourbon or virgin oak or things like that, I can be put off sometimes. And if it's very, very sweet, this is a sweet whiskey, but it's worthy, and it's 46% ABV unchill filtered, and it's great value as well. £42. I was surprised. I was expecting it to be in the 30s because that's my experience of it. It might just be where it's priced right now. And of course, this is UK pricing that I'm going to speak about tonight. That's where I am. That's all I can really talk about. Richard Agnew's asking about Tobermory 12. Don't worry, I have you covered, Richard. I'll get to the Tobermory. Glen Garioch is a 48% product, unchill filtered as well. I'm going to talk about more about that in a wee minute because I've got one here. And the Altmore 12 is a very light, quite grassy. It's a different take on Speyside. I think it's not a beginner's whiskey, Altmore, but I think it's got a lot to offer for somebody that's willing to spend a bit of time with it. It's not got a lot of hooks in there, but it's subtle and malty and oily. I enjoyed Altmore 12, and I also very much enjoyed Craigellachie 13. Again, this is in there at 46% ABV. I think the Craigellachie 13, maybe you're paying a wee bit more for that extra year's maturation. At £51 in the UK, it does seem to be a wee bit pricier. We talk a lot about their worm tub condensation. Definitely, there's a weight and a body to Craigellachie that's wonderful. And even an ex-bourbon cask, the Craigellachie 13 is a vatting of bourbon and ex-sherry. But Craigellachie can be quite a compelling texture-forward, nice oily, weighty dram, in my experience. So where non-chill filter is stated, I've included these are honourable mentions. How about fully natural? Fully natural, where they talk about no non-chill filtration and no colour added as well. Brings me to this one I've got in my hand here, the Glenallachie 12-year-old. This is still maybe the first or second release in the 12-year-old, and this is sealed. This isn't opened. I'm going to keep this and gift it to somebody because this is a sweet whiskey for me. I have heard that the most recent Glenallachie 12, again fully natural, is fantastic and a big leap forward. And that's kind of Billy Walker probably getting a chance to put more of his footprint on the releases there. But this is from a couple of years ago, and this is going to stay in a box, and this will be gifted to somebody. I won't open this again. I won't drink this myself because it's just that wee bit sweet for me. I think it's the PX in this maybe that makes it a bit sweet. Nevertheless, it's a fantastic whiskey. Ralphie's Whiskey of the Year a couple of years back, and deservedly so. Great value too, at less than £40. Let's look at this Glendronach 12 here. Why is the Glendronach 12 in there at 43%? Well, it's natural colour, it says on the label. It's unchill filtered, despite it being at 43%, and that's the way it should be done. This is malt whiskey we're speaking about. Okay, if you have to put it out at less than 46 or less than 45.7, whatever it is, percent ABV, fine. But don't strip all those lovely fats and oils out of it with chill filtration. This really aggressive way of handling malt whiskey. Glendronach 12 puts it out at 43% unchill filtered, and it's still less than £40. And it's an amazing whiskey. And it's arguable that it should be in the lineup. Another one that I should include, it's a bit pricey, it does suffer from batch variation, honestly, is the Alasdair 12-year-old. Here you can see 12-year-old sherry cask Caledonian. Fantastic whiskey, getting better all the time. Andrew Samington up there at Alasdair's had his hand in there for a long, long time now, and we're starting to see some amazing things from a distillery that used to be patchy. There is still batch variation. They seem to embrace it. They seem to very much enjoy it. And I think that that should be celebrated. When you find a batch that really connects with you, buy a wee backup bottle. But it's something that, don't consider that £58 is too expensive for a 12-year-old. It's not a standard 12-year-old. It's a very rich, very intense, it's a bigger whiskey. And if you were to taste it not knowing what it was, I think that you would place it more often than not, especially that edition there, that I shared with you, you would place it as a more mature whiskey. Eric is saying, it took me nearly half the bottle to really enjoy that Edredeur. Good stuff, but pricey indeed. It can be very bold, very flavoursome. There can be a lot of kind of challenging things in there. If sometimes you'll get a lick of sulphur from the sherry casks, and I'm not speaking about bad sulphur. I'm speaking about that real kind of savoury note that can come through from especially European oak sherry casks. That's my experience of some Edredeurs. Other ones are much lighter and brighter and fresher. There is inconsistencies. Look carefully at what release you're looking at. Get some information first on the bottling year and things, what batch it's going to be from. Try before you buy, if at all possible. Sample sharing is, and I'm going to give you an example of that tonight. Gary Carew is saying, how about Glenkinchie 12? Surprisingly good, I thought. Very different to the other regions as you'd expect. See, for everybody that tells you that Glenkinchie is plain, dull and boring, put it in a blind lineup with other similar whiskies. And what jumps out about Glenkinchie 12 is the texture, the oiliness and the weight. What you consider is a really light, fruity whiskey, just light in fruit and malt. Suddenly there's this weight to it. I think the Glenkinchie 12 suffers from its presentation. Give us Glenkinchie 12 with a few more points of ABV, just a bit extra grip. I think it would communicate with us a lot better. But I'm a fan. I was once bored by Glenkinchie 12 and I was converted quite recently. I quite enjoy it. So let's hit through these. I've shared the Glenallachie with you. Can I put it in the lineup? Let's make a space. Because it's peated and for no other reason, we're taking away the Caol. Can we put the Glenallachie 12 in there? Sure, it's worthy. It's worthy. Let's put that in that slot and hold it. Does it go ahead of the Loch Lomond? Not for me. Loch Lomond's got lots of funk and character and bold things that jump out the glass, things that attract your attention in that Loch Lomond 12. Whereas the Glenallachie, as I've already shared, is sitting a wee bit sweet. So let's slide into the next one. Some people have been asking for it already. Tobermory 12. Now, this is the rebrand from Tobermory. This is the much more recent release. It gets the same presentation as Stablemates, which is fantastic, 46.3%, non-chill filtered. And I have to say the extra 2 years brings on a lot from the 10-year-old. Tobermory used to be quite an odd whiskey. It was quite shy and quiet to me, a little bit kind of grassy, herbal, malt-driven, certainly spirit-driven. But it was one that never kind of made me want to go back when it was a 10-year-old. This is much more interesting. But I'm not getting through this very fast. And I think the reason for this is, again, the sweetness. One of the reasons that they've made this much more characterful is that they've brought in a bit more cask engagement in this new Tobermory 12-year-old versus the old 10. And I think that's a good thing generally. But for me, I would have loved to have had the 2 years extra maturation on the old style with maybe a wee bit more cask, but not too much. So this is very kind of first fill bourbon in flavour. I'm not saying it's all first fill bourbon, but there's certainly a lot of first fill bourbon in here now. And it's quite a sweet whiskey. Lots of toffee, lots of caramel. An interesting, good whiskey. I'm glad I've got it there. But I'm not reaching for it a lot. It's good enough to knock out the Glenallachie. I would reach for the Tobermory over the Glenallachie, and that's the only reason that would happen. Richard Agnew is admitting that he loves sweet whiskey. Drew from Arizona. Drew, so nice to have you in, my friend. That extra 2 years completely changed my opinion of the Tobermory. I have to agree with you, Drew. It is a big improvement. And I noticed that the price, I'm not sure, I think maybe now the price is £1 or £2 more, but it wasn't a big jump in price either. Whiskey Radar is here. Good to see you, Roland. He's saying, recently I got to sip Glenelgin 12, same story as Glenkinchie. Not that bad though. And with 43% above the minimum. Still, indie bottlings are superior mostly. I have that Glenelgin 12 here. I do find it a wee bit soft too, but it's something that's easy. It's something that you can give to somebody something they can enjoy and engage with. It wasn't one that I included here tonight. Jimmy Leg is saying, the only Tobermory I can get is Lechic. Well, it's a good one, honestly. It's not in the lineup tonight because it's 10 years old, the standard core range offering, and it's peated. But it is a good one from the exact same distillery, just a different brand from Tobermory Distillery. Ryan Sutherland is saying, had the 10 and it was put off initially. 12 changed my mind about the brand. But yes, very sweet. Distell, it started with Burn Stewart, and then Distell getting involved, and they're moving it in the same direction. Deanston especially, it seems to be getting better, and nothing more obvious than that 18-year-old now. Very interesting. Alexander Hanswald was saying, what's the record viewer number? We could be close. Wow, 469. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I hope this isn't a weak topic for you tonight to keep your attention. Graham Fraser is saying, I love Linkwood 12, Flora and Fauna. I'm going to just drop over because I heard a beep. I've got a cameo appearance here tonight, and I'm going to bring them in. I'm going to ask for a thumbs up from my friend. I can see yes, he's good. I'm going to reach over to some friends across in Indianapolis, Scotch for Dummies. They've got a celebration coming up, and I would like Mark to come in.
New Year.
Tell me what is it all about. Good to see you, buddy. Look at the uniform. Thank you so much.
Come on, man.
Let's raise a glass. It's so good to see your happy face, Mark. So good to see you in.
I think I'll pour one. It was one of your honorable mentions.
And I think it's a fantastic honourable mention, honestly. I finished my bottle a couple of months ago and I haven't replaced it yet. But when I did throw it in the recycling, I did say I would replace it. So I'm delinquent. I think it's a fantastic dram for the money.
Cheers to you.
Oh, you've frozen a little bit.
But I wanted to say cheers.
Cheers, buddy. Nice to have you. Nice to see you.
So it's been a while since I sniped your channel and was trying to see your background. Boy, the bottles have grown, and there's some interesting ones that I want to talk offline about there. You got a nice little collection going, Roy.
I have to say, everything that's not on camera right now is a mess because I completely changed the backdrop a wee bit. I needed more space. There were bottles everywhere. What happens here, Mark, everything that's behind me tends to be the sealed bottles. And everything that's open is sitting on the bar kind of thing for free pour and drinking.
I'm spotting a couple of good ones back there, my friend.
Yeah. There are a lot of nice. That's the trouble, Mark. There's too much good whiskey. There's not enough wallet, there's not enough liver, and there's not enough time to get through
I
it all.
understand. I agree with you on that. Hey, congratulations on 469. Man, that's huge.
I've never seen. Somebody must have said that Ralphie was going to join or something tonight. I don't know. I don't know why there's so many, and it's wonderful to see the support. Listen, I'm missing you, buddy. It must be 3 years ago now that we got to hang out in Scotland together. You, Drew, and myself. Wonderful day we had together, and just seeing your face now makes me kind of miss that because it's been a long time since we've been able to kind of hook up and sit with anyone. And are you feeling the same over there?
Absolutely. We're really disappointed. I mean, last year we were supposed to bring 25 of our subscribers over to your neck of the woods and tromp through Scotland and visit a bunch of distilleries, and we had to cancel that. We didn't have a chance to do a 5-year celebration anniversary for doing this for 5 years. So we kind of feel like we've been left out on a lot of those things. And so tonight we're going to try to make up with a live show and just kind of blow it out and have a celebration and hope that things open up so that we can come across the pond and do what we intended to do. We were going to do an Invade Scotland tour and come over there and see you.
I was looking forward to that. I know we spoke, we kind of worked out what the dates were going to be and things, but it was like everything else. It was trashed last year. But I keep saying, Mark, it's not cancelled. It's just postponed. And instead of you celebrating 5 years, you get to celebrate 6 years. Amen. And then 25 people will be 30, 35. Who knows? It'll be more, and there'll be more reason and more kind of hunger to celebrate. But tell me about this celebration, because I would congratulate you here now for your recent success.
So
there's another platform for me to do that, right?
Yes, you're going to come on later, right? You're going to try.
Absolutely, so, yes.
Our live shows go on after yours on Thursdays. We go live 10 p.m. Eastern. We've been in that time slot for a long, long time. I don't know, when we all got started doing this, you kind of started back then with us. We all tried to play nice and find a time slot that worked for everybody. And we've stayed in our time slot for 5 years now. We haven't moved. We probably miss some people because of that, but it's tough. You got to pick a time and stick with it. So tonight at 10 p.m., we're going to go live. We're going to have some guests on, you being one of them. I know it's going to be a late night for you to do that. But we're going to have a couple of other YouTubers. And we want to celebrate, we've had a great year. We just surpassed 25,000 subscribers on YouTube, which, in the Scotch industry, that's a big number because it's a much smaller group. It seems to be like if we were doing bourbons, I think it's a little bit easier to get into higher numbers. But so we're going to talk about that. We want to share it with some of the whiskey tubers like you and a couple of others. We got Whiskey in the Six. I think he's going to be there because it's not about celebrating the numbers, Roy. It's about celebrating the journey. It's always been about the journey. It's not. Yep. There's not a crossing finish line to get to. It's all about the people that we've been able to share this with. You being one of them. I'll never forget the time that we hooked up with you in Scotland. I mean, you were so funny that you weren't even on camera at the time, and you wouldn't even get on camera with us. And now look at you. You got 470 people online.
I have to say that was a lovely day, and I think that the reason that I enjoy doing that kind of thing is that I get to hang out with you guys. And you're kind of like kids in candy stores, right? You're really excited just to be in the land that's making this product that's engaging you so much. And I get to see my country through different eyes, and it's fun for me to vicariously kind of live that way. But another thing I have to congratulate you for, Mark, and that is you talk about 5 and 6 years. You talk about grinding it out and are growing organically from 0 to 25,000 over 6 years. I mean, that's how tough a gig this is because we are not YouTube. We are whiskey. And whiskey and YouTube is very niche, okay? There are channels out there like The Tribe and The Vault or Massive Ralphie's. Massive Ralphie's been going 11 years now.
Right.
The Tribe are engaging fantastic, prolific content and community to build what they've done. But if you've got other things going on in your life and you're grinding it out, it's a tough gig, right? But the reason I have to congratulate you is that you're consistent. A weekly video goes out, a review, consistent every Thursday night. And that is 4 guys, 4 different families, 4 different jobs and life events and everything going on. And you're still able to bring it week after week after week. And you don't make any bones about it. You're sharing a journey. You're not stepping up and saying, we'll teach you about whiskey, we're experts. You're saying, no, this is Scotch for Dummies. It's literally we're sharing a journey with you, right?
We honestly learn just as much from the group, from the subscribers, from the people that are doing this with us than we teach them. You learn every day. There are so many people on your chat right now that have vast Scotch knowledge. Then you just by reading the comments, you're going to learn something. I mean, you can't go wrong on that. But the funny thing is, out of 25,000 subscribers, I don't think one of our wives is one of them.
Well, I mean, the thing is that, and the other thing is that you remember how we used to be told that we have to release a video regularly so that the audience is waiting and things. You can release a video anytime you like. The whole idea of YouTube that it's on demand. But you hit the nail on the head that if you're going to do a live, put it out at the same time so that people know when it's coming out at what time. And I get a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's too late, Roy." It's too, and I understand that. And I get a lot of people from North America saying it's too early, Roy. But it's been that time, and that's just the time. The beauty of it is, Mark, is that everybody can pick it up on the replay, right?
Yeah, but there is something special about being a part of it live, to be a part of the conversation on the side here, and to really, plug in. I listened to you go through your honorable mentions, and I was thinking through several things to say about it or to talk about Glenmo and your thoughts on that. And I mean, it's just about being a part of it on the live. Yes, it's great to catch it on the replay. And some of us are podcasting it now. I know Rob is getting into that on Whiskey in the Six. For those that can't even get in front of a computer, they find it handy to listen to while they're driving or something. But I say the word grind to make it. It's not something that you don't enjoy, though. We're passionate about this. You're passionate about Scotch whiskey, and that's why we do it. So, yeah, I'm excited to be on the show, though. It's good to see you. I really, really was looking forward to actually crossing paths with you last year, but we're going to make that happen.
Well, what I'm doing, and I know that you don't need the subscribers now, 25,000 is an amazing achievement, but I'm going to grab the link to your channel right now, and I'm going to drop it in the chat, because tell me where everybody can come in and help and celebrate your 6 years your 25,000 subs. I'm going to come on. I think I'm probably going to be one of the first because of the time zone, right? And we'll work out. You can share what time it's going live as well.
So yeah, we do actually for our patrons we do a live pre-show where we kind of meet with our patrons on Zoom and just chat, and they kind of are a part of us setting up and talking about the agenda or sharing some of their things with us. And we go live at 10. Normally we're live from 10 to 11. Tonight we'll probably push that a little bit. We've got some special guests we want to spend some time with. And then following that, we do a post show on Zoom for our patrons as well. So it's going to be a late night for us, but it's at Scotch for Dummies on YouTube. That's Scotch, the number 4, Dummies. And, you know, we're not hitting 469 live people on our shows. We're getting somewhere between 100, 150. And it's great to see everybody every week, just like you go down your viewers on the chat and, you know, you recognize the names. You get to know people through this virtual screen. So it's going to be a good time. But, you know, I want to make an announcement, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this or your viewers are aware of this, but are you aware of the video or the movie that's coming out here in a week and a half called The Water of Life?
I'm aware of it. There's been a lot of publicity and things. I've had a few emails and things like that. It's the 22nd it's coming out, right?
Right. Well, yeah, they sent us a press release as well. I don't know the people that sent it to us, but it looks really interesting. I know I'm going to buy a ticket and watch it. And I just want to, you know, help them market it to say, you know, all these people that are watching your show are probably going to like it. I mean, I'm just going out on a limb, but I'm looking forward to it. There's a couple of cameos on there. If you watch the trailer, you can see Ralphie in an event smiling.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's the website is wateroflifefilm.com. I think you just need to Google Water of Life Film.
Right.
But it's a week tomorrow, which is the 22nd, I think. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what the content is, to see what it's about and things. I don't really know much about it, but we've seen all the characters that's involved. It's the who's who of Scotch, right? So it should be a very, very interesting watch. And it's funny that you mentioned that Ralphie's in it as well. I think that's just wonderful. I think it's amazing.
Well, there was the cameo from Jenna. She's a part of the SMWS America now, but she used to be a big Instagrammer. So when I saw her cameo on it, I kind of smiled too because she's wonderful. But I was
all right.
Yeah, I was looking for you. I'm like, if they don't reach out to Roy with the name of a film like this, what are they doing? They're missing the boat.
No, we're small fish, Mark. We're and sometimes that's an okay place to be. Right. But I'm going to come on and I'm going to hang out with you for Big Fish now and celebrate your 25,000 subscribers. I've dropped a link in a couple of times. It's going to be a pleasure for me to hang out with you over there, buddy. But what I'm really looking forward to is whether it's Scotland, whether it's Indiana, whether it's Texas, whether it's Kansas, I don't care where it is us just being able to get together and raising a glass together, buddy, because if it's going to be anything like that time that we spent in Edinburgh together, it's going to be a good time. It's going to be
a good time. I'm going to go out of my way to finish a bottle and drop it in your recycle bin. That's all.
It's there waiting for you. It's not a very glamorous place to hang out, I have to be honest, but it's
Well, listen, Roy, thanks for having me on for a few minutes. We'll see you later tonight. We really appreciate you making the time. I know it's going to be a late night. Look for you then, 10 o'clock or so. You've got the emails and whatnot. But thanks for having me on for a few minutes.
Love you, big guy. Thanks for dropping by.
Love you too. Cheers.
Cheers. Wonderful stuff. So I'm going to be able to join them for a little while later. It's going to be quite late for me, maybe at kind of 1 a.m. in the morning, and celebrate those guys that have been doing it for 6 years now, 25,000 subs as well. Quite amazing. Graham Fraser saying, I spoke with the director of Water Life Film, Greg Schwartz, tonight. Some great Q&As lined up for 6 nights after the 22nd. That's right, they're making it a virtual event. Willie Dollar is saying, might have to squeeze in the bar a wee bit. We're approaching 500 in the bar. Aquavida PS, bring the rolls in on the way back from Scotch for Dummies. Bring the rolls in. How about a kebab? Would that work? Jimmy Legg is saying, I'll see you there, Roy. Thanks, Jimmy. Thank you very, very much. Anybody that wants to come and hang out with us, with Drew, with Mark, as you saw there, Sean and Andrew over at Scotch for Dummies, I'd love to see you there. I'll drop in the link one more time. Jimmy Jazz, Jim Jensen's brought a drama to say, grab a nap first, and I will see you at 10 p.m. with the 4 Dummies. I have to say, If I have a nap now, I may not wake up again, so I'm going to stay awake. I'm just going to stay awake. We will probably run a wee bit late tonight, but hopefully not too late. But I've still got some whiskies to share with you, some really interesting, some really good whiskies. We've got a couple of people sitting in the background that's going to play a quick game of Is It Speyside? And of course, we always close out with the quiz at the end as well. So let's move on, because there's at least 2 whiskies here that I've been struck by and I think you're going to be interested in. This is one of them, honestly. It's not one of the 2 I mentioned. I have been struck by this. I've reconnected with this, re-engaged with it again. And I think this is a worthy dram. This is one of the honourable mentions I shared with you earlier. But this is very honourable. I've opened this just for this exercise. I've been sipping it over the last few days to see how we're getting on with Glen Garioch. 48% ABV. And I have to say, the stablemates of Glen Garioch are kind of going in a bizarre direction. They're stablemates with Auchentoshan, with Laphroaig, with Bowmore. These are distilleries I don't engage with. Ardmore is one of them that I do engage with, that I quite enjoy. Peated Speyside, they're fantastic stuff. Glen Garioch used to be peated. Really, that's what it's famous for. It's a legendary peated whiskey. But now it's unpeated. And I wonder if that's to do with the ownership, because they've got so many peated, so much peated production out there that they don't need peated anymore. That peat just fell out of fashion. So Glen Garioch followed that fashion, and now they're kind of... I still think that this would be far better if it had a bit more peat in it, or peat in it. This is a good whiskey. If you spend time with it, you need a wee bit of water to bring the best out of this, honestly. It's not just because of the 48% ABV, it's because of the style of whiskey it is. It takes water very well, and it starts to bring all the fruit. It's really malty, really spiced, lovely spice. Lots of red fruit. There's some sherry cask in this fatting. This is a decent dram, honestly. With a bit of water, with time in the glass, out comes a creaminess. It borders a wee bit on kind of a lactic creaminess, but it's not off-putting. It's not bad. It just brings a different, unique hook. Some savoury notes in there. It can be quite crisp and bright. This is a decent whiskey, honestly speaking, and not too expensive given the presentation. It says non-chill filtered on the label. It says 48% ABV, 12-year age statement. We don't know anything about colour. They don't mention anything about that. Could be coloured a wee bit. But honestly, this is decent enough for it to nick that spot. It still doesn't go further than that. It doesn't beat the Loch Lomond. But it's good enough, and it's a good enough price for it to be worthy to talk about. Glen Garioch. Benjamin is saying, have just subbed. Thank you very much, Benjamin. Good to have you on. Jimmy Legacy and I prefer time to water, but I will do both. Listen, you don't need to be, I don't do water, or I always use water. It can be a mood thing. Sometimes it's fussy. Sometimes you just want a dram in your hand and you don't want water nearby. You want to be on the couch or the sofa, and it's not. But don't discount water. Please play with water. Sometimes a couple of drops, sometimes a tablespoonful, a good scoosh, as we'd say in Scotland. It can transform your dram. It can really completely make you think you're tasting something different. And it's amazing. Some whiskies take it very, very well. Some whiskies improve a wee bit, some not at all. It's very rare to get one that's crushed by water or drowned by water. It does happen. Some fragile whiskies. Watch out for older whiskies. Just use... If it's precious liquid, please be careful. But if it's a bottle that you have, please give up a dram or two to adding a bit of water. People that say, oh, I don't add water to my whiskey, I drink it at the strength that the whiskey maker designed it to be drunk at. That's complete myth. It's fallacy. The whiskey maker puts it out there at various ABVs for various reasons. It's to do with market, export, domestic. It's to do with profit. It's to do with intended market. It's to do with lots of factors. But no whiskey maker puts out a whiskey and says, this is the ABV that this whiskey is at its best. Because the whiskey maker knows that that's utterly subjective. Water, you're not diluting. If you're just using a couple of drops, you're activating the whiskey with water sometimes. Bruno is saying, you really helped me on my whiskey journey. Thank you, Bruno. He said, I'm still a newbie, but the content and knowledge you provide has helped me a lot. Bruno, hang around a while and you'll realise how much knowledge the community has got to share with you as well, my friend. Wonderful stuff. Let's move on with these 12-year-olds. By the way, if you're watching this on the replay, I'm going to have timestamps below so that you can click ahead to the various expressions that I'm sharing with you. This is one I brought up on the vPub earlier. I think this deserves a mention. This is something from Pernod Ricard. This is Glenlivet. This is their Illicit Still. Like the Glen Garioch that's over my shoulder, this is out there at 48%. But what's really frustrating is you can barely see that. I'm going to let the camera try to focus on that. And I know that I have old eyes and I'm probably whinging about a silly thing, but the ABV is actually written down here. 48%. You should be making this obvious and clear to anybody that's picking up a Glenlivet. They'll see that it's in brown glass, it's not in the usual packaging, but they need to know. People that are drinking Glenlivet 12 at 40% and pick up this to try it, they need to know that this is much stronger, much higher ABV. More than anything, I just hate having to reach for my phone magnifier with these eyes to work out what the ABV is and things. It does say non-chill filtered on the label, 12-year-old, and this is a nice way for them to kind of tread that difficult ground of how you move away from a 40% mass market ABV to something much spicier, much hotter, much more grip, and cover the branding. This is a limited release. It's not going to be there forever. This is not, I believe, going to be core range, this Illicit Still release. It's making its way out there everywhere, and this is kind of like an amped up Glenlivet. So where Glenlivet can, certainly in recent years, be a wee bit bland and boring and two-dimensional, this brings much more fruit, brings some spice as well. It can play a little bit hot, as I've said in the past. Water is your friend here. Again, you're not diluting. You can dilute a wee bit just to tame that heat, to tame that alcohol, but you're not going to bring it all the way down to 40 or below. You're going to be able to play with Glenlivet that's unchill filtered, so there's fats and oils in here that would normally be removed that are present, so it's going to be a much more interesting thing. Not too expensive when it was launched. I got this at a good price, £38, fantastic. It's much more expensive in the UK than that now. Depending on how much you have to pay for it, this could be worthy of your attention. It doesn't make it into our lineup, unfortunately. Neither does this one, but if it was core release, it should. This was one of my epiphanies from last year. Amazing whiskey. This is a 12-year-old Loch Lomond. But you might remember it at the end of year, 2020 summary, I spoke about this. This is the one that was released for the Open Championship that never happened. And it was a special release using Chardonnay wine yeast. If you talk about fruit on a whiskey, if you talk about the ability to taste how that yeast, how that fermentation has affected the experience with the whiskey, this does it in an amazing way. There's a wonderful texture to this that's effervescent. It's like sherbet, it's like fizz, fruity fizz on the palate. This is a very Moorish whiskey, so Moorish. The reason I didn't evangelize about it much at the end of the year is because I donated a bottle of this to the Glasgow Whisky Club, and in order to get another bottle shipped to me, I had to go and use a bizarre company that I'd never used before. It worked out fine. They delivered it, no problem. But it was out of stock everywhere. A couple of weeks ago, through a hangout just with some friends, it had appeared back in stock. You can buy this again, and there's plenty out there. There was 3,000 of these bottles released, and I bought a replacement bottle, and I'm very, very glad to have this back in the cabinet again. This has still got its bubble wrap around it, so it won't pull out. Why did they put bubble wrap? See, if they're going to put bubble wrap and things inside an inch of the tube, and then bubble wrap around the outside, and then cardboard, and then polystyrene beads, and then more cardboard. Get rid of this tube. We don't need the tube. Do you need tubes? Do people like tubes? Maybe you like the tubes. Maybe you like all that extra packaging. I think if they ditched the tubes, would save a bit of money, would get the whiskey a bit cheaper. And they'd maybe put more information on the bottle label. You can see I like the colour of the whiskey. I like to see through the glass. I like to see the whiskey. And if the bottles are open like these, I like to see where the level is. I don't like the tubes. I don't want my shelves in my house looking like a shop shelf, a retail thing. I want... So I have anxiety when I just take the box and throw it. It's kind of a waste. Anyway, sorry for the digression and the mini rant. Glen Dunklin is saying, I've created a whiskey monster. Sharon loves the Glenlivet 12 Illicit Still. It's $72. I think that'll be Australian dollars. She bought 5 bottles in the last 2 months. She's found something that's bringing her in, and she's connected with it. There's a hook in that whiskey, and I guarantee it's probably for that illicit still. It'll be the fruit. It'll be the fruitiness that's got her with that nice grippy spice. Watchman 999 is saying twisted. That was my best effort at a twist, buddy. That was just as good I could go. Eric Cunliffe is saying he agrees on the packaging. Not sure we would get everybody to agree with that, but have a thought about it. Think about the money that could be saved and the waste that could be saved, and the just, if we're buying it online, it's going to get packed and then packed and then packed again anyway. And if we're going to a shop to buy it, they wrap it in tissue and give you a bag to take it home. When do we? I don't see that we need all of the packaging. Honestly, it's frustrating. Che Francis saying, don't know why, but the rant on tubes reminded me of Seinfeld. It just seems like the patter from that. I apologise, Shay, and it's good to have you, my friend. Dan Smidgy, Glenn, good to have you. The illicit cask needed a drop or two of water, but as I got down the bottle, I then preferred it without. Wonderful. Play with the water, Glenn. Absolutely. Good to have you in, buddy. Erwin Laranagas, good to have you in as well, my friend. He's saying, no tubes. Did you change your studio around? I've changed it a wee bit. I'm fussy, Erwin. I need something that can work as a studio, and I can work here. It can be a practical space, and that's the trouble I'm having. So it's why you're going to see it evolve over time and change. Jimmy Legg is saying, you missed a super chat from Jimmy Jazz. Did I miss it? Did I miss it? I thought I caught it. No, I think I caught it. He said, grab a nap first, and I will see you at 10 p.m. with the 4 dummies. What I did forget to do, though, Jimmy, and thanks for pointing it out, is raise a wee glass to my friend over in America, Jimmy Jazz. Good to have you, buddy. The last night I spent outside in the world in a pub was with Jimmy Jazz, Neil Cochrane, Sevi, and Kilted Moose, Scotty. No need to apologise, says Jay, not a bad thing. And very sorry, I missed it then. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you. Okay. Loch Lomond, that Chardonnay yeast, amazing. Here come the surprises. 3 surprises at the end. And at least 2 of these will disrupt that lineup over my shoulder. We've currently got in first place the standard, the Kilkerran. It's hard to beat, honestly. Bunnahabhain in second. I'm going to make a wee change. We're talking about subjective things here. Don't just listen to my opinion. Don't only listen to me. There's a whole community out there maybe going to comment on what I've just done. I would move Deanston 12 up into second place ahead of Bunnahabhain. Sometimes we forget just how much of a sherry monster Bunnahabhain is. It's fully sherry forward. Sip it in contrast with so many other things, and it's overtly sherried. It's a fabulous whiskey. My palate is I'm far more likely to reach for the ex-bourbon maturation. There is some sherry in Deanston 12, but there's much more ex-bourbon in there. Just the way that it plays, the maltiness, the spice, the texture, the experience in Deanston, not at first sip, sit with it for a little while. I much more prefer that style of whiskey. And where 2.5 years ago I was working which one to put first, and I put the Bunnahabhain first because of what it meant for me from a nostalgic point of view, probably. I've kind of wanted to change my mind. But we're speaking about really incremental little differences and fully a mood-driven thing. And that's the point I'm making here. The mood that I tend to be in these days tends to lean more towards Deanston. But if you like more sherry-influenced releases, Bunnahabhain 12 is going to be your thing. So I've switched the order of those around. Now let's switch it up a wee bit. Carlo Macus and Aquavite, rearrange the order around how you like. Just keep Bunna and Deanston both on the list. They're both total class. There they are. Let's see if any of these can bump them down a wee bit. There's been a few rebrandings in the last 2.5 years since I last did this list. And one of the rebrandings, the most controversial rebrandings out there, was from Inverhouse. And it was their Balblair, moving from vintage to age-dated products. That's fine. We can understand that. We can understand the difficulty in selling a vintage as a concept. And honestly, the pricing, it would seem that some of the biggest bargains you could pick up in whiskey was Balblair. Because it was vintage, the price was very, very good. Now, let me explain just quickly for the difference between a vintage age. So if you bought a 1999 Balblair, for example, and you bought it in 2015, that would be a 15 or a 16-year-old, depending on bottling and distillation, of course. 15 or 16 years old. But everything in that bottle would be from 1999. It's a vintage. Sorry if you know this, and I'm teaching my granny how to suck eggs. If you pick up an age statement, and it says 12 years on the bottle, the minimum component in the bottle is 12 years old. But there's often likely to be older product in there in the vatting for whatever reason, to reach a profile, to bring a character, an expectation, whatever it may be. Balblair, when it switched from vintage to age statement, the price was affected. A little bit on the younger, the non-age statement, a little bit on the 12-year-old. But as you went older, the price just became, honestly, I just disengaged. And it wasn't only me that disengaged, it was swathes of the community disengaged as well. And we just disconnected from one of our favourite distilleries. It's kind of heartbreaking, but it's not our whiskey. It belongs to Inverhouse. It's their whiskey. They can do what they like with it, and they can choose to market and bottle and do it as they see fit. And as consumers, we engage with it if we want or we don't. And when we do engage with it, we judge it. That's what we do, and we decide if it's better. I decided that I'd had Balblair on the naughty step for long enough, and I wanted to engage with the 12-year-old. I've engaged with it a little bit, not a lot. Don't only listen to me. It's very appley. The Balblair honey is there, clear honey. It's light. This 12-year-old is not a bad whiskey. I would go as far to say it's actually quite a good whiskey. And if you're in the mood for this kind of light, floral, apple, blossom, honey style whiskey, this brings it. But it's too spirity. If you love young, youthful, spirity whiskies, you will connect with this. But there's a 12-year age statement on this. And if you sip it in contrast with anything else, the spiritiness comes through. I think that we have a 12-year-old here, but there's not a lot of that overaging going on. Most of the product in here will be from refill casks at more or less 12 years old and not much older. I have no idea what's in this, honestly. I'm just saying this is how I assess it. That's what it says to me when I have a glass of this. I'm not sad that I bought this. I'm not upset that it's in the collection. It's nice to have it here. I've re-engaged with Balblair at 12 years old, and I'm going to stay with other producers in the Inverhouse stable. This hasn't drawn me back yet. Unfortunately, Balblair 12 doesn't make the lineup. Malt Punk is saying Balblair 12 was a letdown for me. Hans Waldman Alexander is saying, sadly, I couldn't connect with the Balblair 12. The point is we gave it a try. We tried it. We said, okay. The wonderful thing about the Balblair vintages were that every single one was different. You had to know if you were sipping the first or the second or the third or the fourth release. It was a wee bit geeky. Sometimes they were a wee bit like that. They were a wee bit light and spirity. Sometimes they were absolutely amazing. What I will say about Balblair is that Balblair is at its best when it's mature. I'm speaking about 15, 16, 17, 18 years and older. Balblair does, and I don't know if it's because most of it is, maybe it's the refill cask, maybe it's the spirits, maybe, I don't know what it is, but get your hold of it, an old Balblair, the 21-year-old G&M Gordon MacPhail. It's only 43%. It's quiet, it's quite a shy whiskey, but spend time with it and it pays dividends. Interestingly, it's not that expensive for its age either. Don't know if you can still buy it easily, but I would look to that kind of thing right now. Chris is saying, I know it's not the theme, but the Balblair 15 is pretty damn good if you can find it closer to 50 quid. Again, it's a price thing there. And that 12-year-old hasn't made me want to run out and buy the 15. But that's what I'm talking about when the community is saying here, okay, you might not engage with the 12, but the 15 is worthy. Dribs and Drams is in and bought me, that looks like a new name. I tasted that Balblair for the first time for my channel. I loved it, but I think it'll be better after a few months of being open. Dribs and Drams, it's nice to have you in, my friend. It looks like a new name, and thank you very much for the dram. And I think you make a good point. I wonder, the spiritiness might become a wee bit more subdued, but if you sip it in contrast with anything else, I think it'll be right back forefront again. Thank you for your dram, my friend. Cheers. The point of the recycled reviews is exactly that. I'm not going to be judging in the time that Balblair will end up in a recycled review, and by that time, I'll have had my journey with the whole entire bottle. Scott is pointing out exactly what I'm talking about, Balblair 89 and 91 top drams. I'm kind of precious about this one because it's been signed by the distillery manager, but that wouldn't stop me opening this bottle. It doesn't really add any value to it. This is Balblair 89. This is only 43% ABV. But this is, if you talk about quiet, not obvious in any, there is a bit of honey in this, a wee bit of light oak from memory, that kind of thing. But there's something about this that's difficult to articulate. It's a delicate wonder. This is the 1989, but I'm looking for a release on this. This is distilled at 89. This is bottled in 2010, so it's the second release, this one. Amazing stuff. Maybe you and I, Scott, will get a chance to open that together. Mark Slinger is saying, Roy, I love the Balblair 03. Very interesting. And I think the majority of those were kind of really quite pale, light refill casks. And Greg is saying, I agree with you. I cherish my 26-year-old 1991 Balblair, and Compass Box's Myths and Legends one is great too. Full Balblair, but alas, didn't buy it. But again, these are mature things we're talking about. Whiskey Games is saying, I have 6 bottles of Balblair 1999 in reserve. That was an amazing bargain as well, because you were able to buy that at 17 years old, 18 years old, and it was still like, I don't know, 1999 was about, going from memory, was about 50, 55 pounds, I think. The Whiskey Bowman Chris is saying, sorry, Roy, I'll need to pick the rest up in replay. I've lost audio and can't get it back. Problem at my end, not yours. It's maybe a good thing that you can't hear me, Chris. I've got some coherence to send to you, buddy, and I'll get on it during the next week. Thanks for tuning in, Chris. Okay, let's get on to the next one. This was a surprise, and this is going to make its way into that lineup. Exact same thing that we've been talking about with the rebrandings here. Another thing. And we were kind of rolled our eyes and we looked at it and we said, okay, not another one. Not another one. This is from a distillery that we were kind of connecting with. We were enjoying a lot. The range was confusing, honestly. Different coloured labels, different this, different that, a different age. It was all over the place. Peated, unpeated, different casks. It was really confusing, even for an enthusiast to keep up with. Jimmy Legs bought me a dram to say, see that Balblair is the difference between forgettable and needs time and investigation. It's a fine line, but an important one. I agree. I agree completely, Jimmy. Stuff for Work is a new name, bought me a dram. Really enjoying your take on these available Corange products. Cheers. I look forward to seeing you on with the Dummies later. Wonderful. I'll see you there as well. Stuff for Work. Thank you for your dram. And thank you, Jimmy Leg, as well for your dram too. Cheers. And I take your point, and the one that surprised me most recently is exactly in line with what you're talking about, Jimmy. This is Benriach. This is not the peated. This isn't the smoky 12. This is the standard 12. 46% ABV. And this is a triple cask thing going on. They call it 3 cask matured. So we've got some ex-bourbon in here. We've got some ex-sherry. And you can actually see it by the colour, not so much in the bottle, but when it's in the glass. You see a kind of nice little kind of magenta highlight in it that betrays the fact that they're using some port cask in here. And you can taste it too. I'm not a lover of port cask maturation, honestly. It has to be done very well. It has to suit the spirit very well for me to engage with it. I think it has to be to my taste, my palate. But sometimes it's very nice. Think Glen Scotia. Tomatin's 14 portwood is pretty interesting, honestly. Keen to Ruban, I can enjoy. But if the port is overt, if the port is dominant, it's never sat with me well. Hoyt's bought me a dram as well to say Royal Pulteney 12 used to be a good buy, but did it change? Still drinking my Old Pulteney 17. Well, you've been able to stash the 17-year-old. Old Pulteney's a 40% release in the UK. I don't know if it's 43 in the States, Hoyt. Honestly, it's still solid. If I was to make a fuss or throw any kind of dirt at Old Pulteney 12, I would be doing everyone in the community a disservice. It's a good, solid, affordable whiskey. And at 40% and the price it goes out at, it's a different take. It's something a bit different. That light kind of coastal style. Malty. It's a very good whiskey. If I was to knock Old Pulteney 12, I think it'd be quite shallow. Yes, it's 40%. If we want higher strength Old Pulteney, it's out there. We need to pay a bit more money for it. But it's out there. It's difficult to knock Old Pulteney. I would love if Old Pulteney was unchill filtered natural colour at 46%. If they want to take it off the supermarket shelves, stop charging us £25, start charging us £30 or £32, £34, whatever it is. And I know everybody out there is going, oh, why? Because malt whiskey is precious. And if we add things and take things away, we are doing malt whiskey a disservice, honestly. You want to drink £20, £25 whiskey at 40% ABV, there's millions of blends out there that you can do that with. Some of them are very, very good. The Cato's blend that I recently threw away is from the exact same company as Old Pulteney and Balblair and Annock and Speyburn. I'm trying to think of the other one, Balblair. It's from Inverhouse, Cato's, and it's a wonderful tropical top note, heavy blended whiskey for £20. If you're going to go into malt, maybe we need to start educating ourselves that malt comes with more. It comes with oils from the cereals that are stripped out when you chill filter. And if we're going to make something the same every single bottling, every single vatting, and in order to do that, the cask marriage has made the colour change a wee bit, so we add caramel to raise it. Keep that for the blends. Malt whiskey, let's embrace the fact that it's going to change batch to batch. Just my opinion. Graham Young is saying, or is a dram of Blackadder raw cask, Amrut sherry cask, to your all huge collection of dear barflies. Thank you for what you do, Roy. Graham, thank you for what you do as well. Thanks for all your support over the years. I've managed to meet you a couple of times, my friend, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you joining me despite the time difference week after week. Graham Young, thank you very much. Frontline Health Service as well. You're a star, Graham. This Benriach, there's a 10-year-old out there as well. It's just called the 10, I think, and the 10 Smoky, and then the 12, and the 12 Smoky. So you're saying, okay, so this is confusing again, Benriach. What have you done? You've cleaned up your line. You've given us this nice kind of pseudo-retro branding, which I really quite like, honestly. I'm quite attracted to this bottle. I think it's nice and bold and clear and easy to read. I like it. However, still confusing, isn't it? A 10 and a 12 and a 10 and a 12, PT and non-PT. It's not confusing. I think this is clever. The 10-year-old they've put out there at light, easy, slightly cheaper, mass market, lower ABV presentation. That's the 10-year-old range. PT1 for smoky and unpeated. The 12-year-old, now this is just me, my interpretation as a layman. There's somebody out there, probably Stuart or somebody's kind of screaming, saying, oh my goodness, it's this, that's not what it's all about. You're getting it wrong. I understand. But it seems to me like the 12-year-old is out there at higher ABV, 46%. I think they do right on here, unchill filtered. I'm pretty sure that they do. It's not obvious if they do. They don't actually write that on the label. But at 46%, you've got to imagine that what they're doing here is they're putting it out unchill filtered. However, I've had a sample of the 10-year-old and I would like to taste that one. 46% unchill filtered. I think that maybe the only mistake they've made here is the 12 should maybe be the lower ABV one. A bit more maturity, slightly smoother product, maybe down at 43%. And the 10-year-old can be much bold, more spirit-driven, more overt. more for an enthusiast. Small comment. I have to say, look at this. I'm enjoying this. I haven't had this a long time, and I'm really enjoying this whiskey. I find it to be quite rich, despite not enjoying port cask. It's not overdone here. It brings a lot of balance to it. And what it does is it brings quite a nice kind of, one minute it's sweet, then it's savoury, then it's floral, all in the same glass, sip by sip. So there's some nice complexity here to this as well. I think this is encouraging. If they could bring the presentation a wee bit more natural, if they could make maybe, I don't know, put it on the label, tell us what they're doing. This is a very clean label. This is a kind of very legible thing that you can see that what they're going for here. But tell us a wee bit more. It comes in a nice box, and maybe it's on the box. The box I've tossed. I don't know. I didn't pay much time with the boxes. You know my opinions on boxes. But I still say that this is a good whiskey. Good enough. That it replaces our Glen Garioch. It doesn't get any further than the Loch Lomond. Not yet. The Loch Lomond says unchill filtered on the label, but it doesn't talk about colour. Once it tells us that it's natural colour, it's going to be a much more solid proposition in there as well. But it still holds on the flavour and engagement and character alone, holds on to its fourth place. Here comes something that's going to make it difficult for me, blows everything apart. It makes me kind of, last year in 2020, I talked about value, I talked about presentation, natural product, value. Prices continue to spiral. Well, not all the time, not everywhere, as our exercises of 2020 showed. There was lots of product out there that we could engage with and get our hands on. But before I bring my guests in for a wee game of Visit Speyside, I'm going to tell you what could potentially be my whiskey of 2021, and we are only halfway through January. This is a wonderfully compelling whiskey that's far too expensive for a 12-year-old. So when I talk about looking at this landscape through the lens of 12-year-olds, understand how these whiskies are the only thing that ties them together is their age statement. They are completely different experiences in every bottle. The ABV is all over the place. The cask profile is all over the place. The price is all over the place. These are different whiskies. And it's lazy, honestly, for anybody that does what I'm doing tonight and says this is the top 5 best 12-year-olds and doesn't give it context. Before Christmas, November, December, Stefan Novak in Germany, thank you, Stefan, sent me a wonderful selection of samples, really interesting and odd stuff. I think things that he knew I would not buy myself. A Namibian whiskey that's smoked. The barley is smoked using elephant dung by burning elephant dung. I've not had the confidence to try that yet. I'm looking forward to trying it. I'm not afraid of it whatsoever. But I've not had the moment to go into it. I'll maybe do it on a patron-only lock-in or something. I think it's going to be a good, fun thing. He sent me a good selection of whiskies, and one of the whiskies he sent, I looked at and said, okay, I'm curious to try that. And I casually sat and sipped it while I was on a whiskey hangout, a Zoom call with some local friends. A couple of you will be in here tonight, if not all of you. And I was zoned out. I kept zoning out of the discussion, sip by sip. Every sip was like, oh my God, wow. And I grabbed a pen. It's got Stefan Novak written on the back here. But I grabbed a pen and I wrote excellent on the front. And then after my hangout, there was half the bottle left and I sat in quiet. And I cannot tell you how happy I was to have been able to try this whiskey. Thank you, Stefan Novak. I'd already bought whiskey online that night. I'd overspent and I'm trying not to spend. But when something hits you like this, when something is this compelling, and the bottle arrives, and you open the bottle, and the same thing happens, it's too expensive for a 12-year-old. But the whiskey I'm going to reveal with you now, if we look at it through the lens of a 12-year-old, we're doing it a disservice. Rebranding, common theme tonight. I've talked about it in the vPub. I told the people in the vPub I was not interested. Never say you don't like. This is Glenturret 12-year-old. This is the 2020 Maiden release. 46% ABV, sherry cask. I can't actually discover if it's exclusively European oak, because the language that they use on their website, on their videos, on their market materials, and on the bottle is that it's driven by European oak, which doesn't say exclusively European oak. That doesn't matter. This whiskey is like it's somebody that engages with older Macallan. Somebody that, but we can't afford older Macallan. Somebody that's used to a kind of older, much more balanced, easy to enjoy sherry maturation. This is velvet. This is like, the European oak thing is in there, but it's not overt, so you don't get that kind of dry thing on the palate on the finish. There's a lovely spiced sweetness. The nose is wonderful to behold as well. There's lots and lots of fruit on there. There's lots of soft spice. There's sandalwood. There's a dry nuttiness. This is by far the best whiskey I've tasted so far in 20, for the price I paid, which is £65. 12-year-old whiskey at £65. Like I say, stick with me. If you're in Germany, if you're fortunate enough to be in Germany, you'll get it for less than €50. Work that out. I have no idea how that's happened. But this has to be judged through the lens of £65 whiskey, not through 12 years old. And for £65, for this profile, for the style of whiskey, I struggle to know where to go to get something as engaging as this. Through the week, I got a message from the editor of Malt, Jason. Just coincidentally, we had not discussed it previously. Nothing, just out the blue, young Glenturret's performing well. Just today, if you're a patron of Malt Review, that as I am, you got early access to an article from Malt Review talking about all the Glenturret releases. I didn't read the verbiage. I wanted to give you my take on it, but I looked at the score. I skipped ahead to see how it had scored. They give it a good score for Malt. It's very, very hard to get above a 5 or a 6 out of 10 on Malt Review. It's really, really, they're very critical of whiskey. This got a good score. Interested to see what the notes are going to say on the write-up. When you consider that this is what it's replaced, this is a 43% Glenturret. This is not opened. I've kept it here. This is a type of whiskey that I would keep and gift to somebody. I would gift this as quite a nice sherry cask. This is a good whiskey, good. It doesn't have the vibrance. It doesn't have the life and the interaction that the 12-year-old that I've just shared with you has. This is a blander, more two-dimensional thing. But this would make a fantastic gift to somebody who wants a sherried style, who might enjoy a sherried style whiskey at a light ABV. 43% is good whiskey, this. But it's not great. It's just good. This is exceptional. This is very, very good. And a recycled review, and I'm only here. I know it looks like there's more than half in here, but it's one of these broad-shouldered, tapered bottles, so I'm down below halfway already. This is already a 9 out of 10 whiskey. £65, it's expensive for a 12-year-old. You taste the whiskey, £65. I don't want to just write off the fact that it's that price. The casks in here are good. Very good. Maybe that's what we're paying for. Tell me why we have to pay £65 in the country that makes it, and in Europe, in continental Europe, they can get it for less than €50. There's something going wrong there. However, judging it against its peers for the style, there's lots of whiskies that this would beat into the ground. Be interested to hear your take on it. Whiskey Radar Wrong is saying, I just tried the 15-year-old Glenturret, which comes in strong at 55. ABV, just great, and similar tasting notes as you described for the 12, very Arran-esque. So Arran-esque has got a juicier sherryness to it. It's got a juicier, rounder, more... it's the American oak is playing a much louder voice in Arran's sherry releases, whereas this is more lovely cooked fruits and dried spice, and nothing is over the top. This has been put together in a very careful way. This is like the Macallan that we used to be able to afford 15 years ago that we can't anymore. That's what it's reminiscent of. Ryan Sutherland is saying, read it this morning. You're talking about the malt review thing. Was incredibly surprised about the scoring. Can't wait to try it now. Jimmy Legg is saying, only Glenturret peated edition available for me. Non-age statement. I wouldn't have considered it. I have to say that Jason scored the peated release the same as this 12. So what's the next Glenturret I'm going to buy? If I can get my hands on it, the peated. Well, I haven't been keeping up with the comments. Carlo's saying, I love you, Roy. Classy stacked in whiskey tube. And that's saying something. Carlo, you can come back again, please. But aye, save me the blushes. Stefan Novak is here. Thank you, Murray. Thank you. He's saying, you're welcome, Aquavite. Love, love, love this one. I haven't even asked you your opinion on it. I'm so glad you love it as well. And clearly that's why you sent it to me. And thank you for the samples, the sample sharing thing, the community thing. I would never have spent £65 on a 12-year-old Glenturret. But guy in Germany, €48. Yeah, you'll gamble on that. Finds it's amazing, shares it with me. Other people, Malt Review, get to talk about it. You guys get to give your feedback. We all share it and we say, you know what? It's dear for a 12-year-old, but it's bloody good whiskey. And it's rare for something like this to come out. Love this one. Is interesting that Stefan should feedback. Graham Fraser is saying, wow. Jimmy Legg is saying, okay, I'm surprised you won. I need to catch up and get back down. Raymaster is in. Good to see you, my friend. He's saying, SMWS has quite often peated Glenturrets. Listen, I've tried a few peated Glenturrets over the last year or so, mostly from independent bottlings, of course, but they've all been very, very good. In fact, some of the times that I was trying on the Glenturret, peated Glenturret was getting the dram of the night. They don't make a lot of whiskey there. They don't make a lot of whiskey. And anecdotally, I once heard that the whiskey that's made at Glenturret is the most expensive LPA, let's say, to produce because of the scale of it all and because of the setup and structure that they have there. It's one of the most expensive whiskies to make. Maybe they're very precious with it. Maybe they handle it very well. Maybe we should be thankful that it's in the ownership that it's in now and not under Edrington's stewardship. Maybe we're going to see, despite this rather chintzy packaging here, I don't care much for the bottle, honestly speaking. It's something that you would gift to somebody, right? It's not, I would like it a bit more like that Benriach back there. But the liquid speaks. The packaging is, suddenly the liquid is just making any discussion over the packaging completely redundant. So where do I put it? Where does this go in the lineup of 12-year-olds? It doesn't. It says 12 years on the label, but it's nonsense. It can't be compared against any of these. This is a completely different thing and it's unique. Maybe it's going to be a batch thing, 2020 maiden release on it, it says. So they're not going to bring another one out this year with the same labelling. Obviously, we'll know it's different vatting, but they might have had to go in a different direction. Maybe this is not going to be around forever. So maybe you could argue it's limited release anyway, so it kind of lets me off the hook. If I'm in the mood for this style of whiskey, which I've clearly been in the mood a lot recently, I would struggle to reach past it to any of these. But it's a lot more expensive, and I'll judge it in a different light. Not 12-year-old, just a fantastic sherry cask whiskey. Really an exemplary whiskey. Graham Fraser saying, I had the Glenturret peated non-age statement 2020, gentle peat, very sippable and not expensive. Thanks, Graham. Let's have a bit of fun now. My guests have been sitting in the background for a long time. Alasdair, give me a thumbs up if you're ready to come on for a wee game and switch things up a wee bit. I'll bring Alasdair in. I love the T-shirt as well. We're wearing the flying the colours. Can we hear you, buddy? How are you doing?
Not bad, yourself?
I'm doing very well. Are you surprised at me evangelising about a Glenturret?
Just a wee bit. I have tried the 12. I did 2-part and a tweak tasting last year, and I think the 12 and the 10 peat smoke, that was
Yes.
they were kind of the same. That got the kind of, but £65 for me is just a bit too much. Like,
I have to say though, you could go out and buy £65 whiskies. Maybe they would be 18-year-olds or that kind of order, and you would sip this alongside them, and I think it would put up a good fight. It would maybe do even a wee bit better than that, Alasdair, which is why I'm trying to say that's why I had discounted if it wasn't for Stefan, and then reinforced by the comments from Jason over at Malt Review as well.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if I'd have been confident talking about it like this on the channel. But absolutely, I think that it's one of those ones that I would be shocked if anybody bought this and thought, this is not, it's just fantastic whiskey. Anyway, buddy, it's good to have you on. Thank you all. Thank you so much for all your moderation that you did for me throughout 2020. It's nice to be able to thank you face to face. I don't have a sniper coin. Let's see if I can grab a sniper coin, Alasdair, so that people know what we're actually doing here, what we're playing for. I have one here. So what we're doing is we're just going to have a wee challenge, a wee face-to-face, a wee head-to-head challenge if you're new in here, if you're seeing this for the first time ever. And we're not sending whiskey. We're not shipping illegal whiskey over borders and things anymore. We're not doing anything like that. But instead, we're playing for these, which are glass toppers. So you pop it, a nice one. So you've played this game and you've beaten me in the past.
Yeah.
And you can just use it as a wee glass topper. It's a bit of fun. These are exclusive. You can't buy these. You can only win these. You don't need to come on live and do it. You can win it in the chat. If you're the first person to guess the whiskey, you get a sniper coin as well. Alasdair Gray, thank you so much for helping me run that spreadsheet as well. I'll get to 2 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon and go, oh, I need to go back and replay the live to remind myself who's getting a sniper coin shipped to them. So it's nice to have you supporting and Phil and keeping me up to date on the spreadsheet too, buddy. Thank you. What are we doing tonight, Alasdair? Are you asking or are you answering?
I'll answer, because I think I was the very first person to do this. I think it was a kind of test run. And I picked a Bruichladdich 8, which probably wouldn't be within the rules just now, because I think it was a duty-free whiskey, if anyone can remember what duty-free is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, it's maybe going to come back again.
So I've got a ball here, so I'll let you guess away.
Okay, so I am guessing. Excellent. Chris is saying, how would you compare it to Deanston 18? That's a fair price comparison. Well, Deanston 18 you can get on special for 55. It's a completely different thing. Deanston 18 is exclusively ex-bourbon. Yeah, Glenturret 12 is exclusively sherried. Those are two beautiful whiskies to bookend two profiles in Scotch. And I can't think of two for that kind of price bracket that could do it better. I hope that answers it for you, Chris. Honestly speaking, I think it's an amazing whiskey. I don't know how much of it's around. I don't know how long it's going to be available to everybody. But there you go. And Kim Grant is saying, we have over 400 people in for the first It's a Speyside of the year. Wonderful stuff. Okay, let's give it a wee go. You have a bottle, so I'm asking you, yes?
Yeah, go for it.
So let's share the screen. Now, I'm handicapped now, of course. I'm on a timer because I was starting to win it so much. So let's put the timer in at 3 minutes. My son has been timing something. Oh, my goodness. What you been doing with my phone? Okay, 3 minutes. Starting now. And the first thing I'm going to ask, Alasdair, obviously, is it a Speyside?
No, it's not.
Is it a Highland, my friend?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so now I'm going to try and work out if it's Northern, Eastern, Western, Southern Highlands. So I'm going to say if we take Dalwhinnie as the centre point, is it south of Dalwhinnie?
No.
It's north of Dalwhinnie. Is it an Eastern Oops. No. Is it an Eastern Highland?
Yes.
Is it a Glen?
No.
Okay. So now I'm all over the Eastern Highlands. Does it have an age statement?
Yes, it does.
Is it 46% ABV or higher?
No.
Is it owned by White Mackay?
No.
Ah, damn. I should have just said, is it Fetter Cairn? So is it, it does have an age statement.
Yep.
Is it younger? Is it 12 years old or younger?
Yes.
Is it Anok 12?
No.
So it's not Fetter Cairn. It's less than 46, so it's not Glen Garioch. What else is in the Eastern Highlands, Roy? Come on. 1 minute 18 left.
It's local to me. I'll give you a clue.
I don't know where you are, buddy. I know you're up north somewhere. I've got 1 plus my Hurley. You might have got me. I'm on the ropes here. It's not a Glen, so it's not Glendronach. I'm without. It's 12 years old or younger. I never asked if it was one of the big four. Could it be a... There's nobody out there. Royal Loch Nagar's 12 years old, 40%. Is it owned by one of the big four?
Remind me who the big four are?
Diageo, Edrington, Grants, or Pernod Ricard?
No.
I think you've beaten me, buddy. I think you've beaten me. I was going to guess a Royal Loch Nagar. What do you have in your hand?
Well, I stay in Cunliffe. Just 8 miles north of me is Banff.
Oh, my goodness. Macduff.
Yep.
The Devon. What a peach to pull out. What an absolute peach to pull out to get me as well. Fantastic. Well done. Well done. And that's owned by Bacardi Dewars, isn't it?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Caught me. You've earned yourself. Is this your second or third sniper you've won, Alasdair?
I think it'd be second, but if there's anyone in the chat that's not got one, they put their name forward, I will recommend. Aye.
Okay, so whoever guessed a Glen Devon, and what was the age statement you pulled up there? 10 or?
On theme of the topic, 12.
Okay,
Yeah.
so anybody that said the Devon 12, it's not Glen Devon, they've just called that one Devon, haven't they?
Yeah,
so,
now, yeah.
So is that, well, one was a duty free and one was a domestic sales, I think. That's how they split those two.
That's right, yeah.
Glen Devon and Devon. So anybody who's anybody who's managed to nail that gets the sniper coin, and because Alasdair's given his up, whoever guessed second also gets a sniper coin as well. Alasdair, I'll maybe let you work out who that is and tell me a bit later through the spreadsheet. Andy, well done. Well done. You got me tonight, and it's a cracker to pick out as well. Superb, my friend. Thanks. Join us a wee bit later for the quiz if you like, if you're not hanging about. Thank you, buddy. Well done.
Take care.
Incredible. Beaten. A wee cheeky comment. You still owe us a sniper coin for the All About Speyside stream. Do I, Helen? You've not got that. That's not a cheeky comment. Anybody that's missing anything from me, my life behind the scenes is really quite chaotic at times, honestly speaking. There's no cheek about that at all. Please reach out to me. Anything I owe to anybody, make your claim. Conor Connoisseur is saying, where can anybody buy that Cato's blend you recommended? No online shop in UK has it. I've had a lot of feedback on the comments as well under the recycled review saying the exact same thing. Understand that your frustration, my friend. It does come into stock from time to time. My only recommendation would be to look at any online shops that the owners are in their house. So if you look at Old Pulteney, Balblair, Speyburn, Anok, which is Knockdo Distillery, any of those, you might have a wee bit of luck there. Otherwise, just wait for it to come back into stock. I'm excited about the next wee round of, before we go on to the quiz at the end, I've got a wee bit of housekeeping to do, but not so much. I want to kind of plug a video, actually. Can I plug a video? That would be cool, wouldn't it? I watched this and I thought it was excellent and very well done. There's a guy down in Australia, and I don't actually know what his name is. I just know that his initials are AD. but he goes by the name Whiskey and Wisdom. And I shared this on Twitter. I was going to share it with patrons, but I'll share it with everybody right now. This is a wee video, just a good fun video talking about the history of Scotch whisky, but it's done to somebody, I don't know if it's him or not, singing along to maybe a karaoke version of We Didn't Start the Fire by Billy Joel. And it's all about Scotch whisky. And it runs from Friar John Corr's Exchequer Rolls of 1494 all the way through to the upheaval of the 1980s and everything that's currently happening today, just to the back-end music of this song. Bookmark this, open this wee link, copy this link. I'll put it in the description box below so that you can get it later. I'll need to mark that down just so that I can remember to do that when I do the timestamps. And give it a wee watch. And if you do give it a wee watch, leave a wee comment, leave a thumbs up, leave a like as well. It's a great effort. And tell him that you're a barfly and you appreciate the content that he's putting out as well. I think it's a good, fun video. I think it's nice when we bring a bit of humour into whiskey. I think it's nice when the humour also has an educational lick as well. Talking of humour, let's reach out to my next guest. You know him very, very well. He's been around for a long time now. He's very active in the chat. He's a fantastic guy, brings a lot of colour to the landscape as well. He's over in Nova Scotia in Canada. Of course, for his first time live on a vPub, I'm welcoming in Jimmy Legg. How are you, Jimmy Legg? How are you doing? Of course, I know you as Blair, but for the duration of this wee session, we're going to refer to you as Jimmy, if that sits okay on your shoulders, my friend. You're muted, so I can't hear your audio right now.
Sure, I mean.
There you are. I can hear you now. Fantastic to see you. How are you, Jimmy? You doing well?
Fantastic.
Now that I've got you in on a public stream, can I say thank you? You are probably one of the most outspoken, most prickly, most direct and honest barflies that we have. But you consistently make me laugh out loud. When I'm coming in and picking up comments and answering things, and I catch things from Jimmy Legg, it often makes me laugh. I think you're wonderfully welcoming, very interactive, and I love everything that you bring to our wee community here, my friend. And it's a pleasure for me to welcome you on for a game of Is It a Speyside, Jimmy. I'll raise this wee glass to my friend in Nova Scotia. Cheers to you, buddy.
You too, my friend.
Now, we have to say, are you asking me, do I need a bottle on hand, or am I asking you, Jimmy?
You know I'm asking you. Oh, wait, no. Yeah, you have the bottle, yes. Yeah.
I have a bottle, yes. I always have a standby bottle, and I have a standby bottle tonight. I do. I'll put it up here. I need to keep it out of shot. I don't want to bring it in. You're trying to peek around the corner? Fantastic. Good for you. And of course, you're playing for us. Have you got a sniper coin yet, Jimmy? You must have.
I usually don't guess, no.
You don't. So this is potentially your first sniper coin, right?
Well, we shall see.
Okay. And you are asking the questions. I'm going to keep count. There's no timer, Jimmy. So you take as long as you need, my friend. Okay. Let's pull up this wee countdown. And I'll wish you the best of luck. I've got a bottle on hand, Jimmy. Go right ahead when you're ready, buddy.
Okay. Does the name of the distillery start with A through G?
Oh, wow. This is a completely different A through G, you're saying. Right. You're running. Okay. I know what's happening here. Okay. No, the name of the first letter of the distillery does not start with A through G.
Okay. Now, is it a Speyside?
Yes.
It is.
What do we have here?
Is it a Diageo distillery?
No.
Is it Chivas?
No. Oh, look at him smiling. He's got me. He's got a formula. He's got a spreadsheet. He's got something. He's got the keys to the Is It a Speyside game door.
I should really sniper you now because it's probably a 12-year-old, and there aren't too many left here. Do you have a Tamdu 12 there?
No.
No. Okay.
Brave snipe, brave snipe.
I thought just to be cool, I'd try that one.
Yeah, just to go for it. Absolutely, go for the money shot.
Is it a 12-year-old?
No.
It's 12-year-old night, you goon.
Hey, come on. Come on.
But I'd at least go, see how cool Alasdair was doing a 12-year-old for you, and still you didn't get it?
Oh, yeah. He was absolutely on theme. He was, yes. I still lost.
So it's not a Macallan. It can't be. So it's a Speyburn, a Speyside, a Tamnavulin, or a Tomentoul. That's what we're down to.
Working from a spreadsheet. Working from a spreadsheet. Which way are you going to go now, Jimmy Leg? How are you going to divide those up?
It's not a Cunliffe and it's not a Macallan, so I'm just going to get rid of those two. If you got a Macallan, you win, because that would just be terrible.
My goodness.
Tamnavulin.
No.
How many questions do I have left? 3.
3 plus your guess, your Hurley.
Is it an age statement whiskey at all?
Yes, it is, my friend. It is age stated.
So it's not a Speyside.
Taking them to the ropes here, folks.
You really are. I did not think. So I'm down to Speyburn and Tomentoul, and I can't believe you have either one of those, but is it a Speyburn?
Yes, Jimmy Leg, it's a Speyburn.
Speyburn?
Yep.
Well. Did you say it was an age statement?
Yes.
Then I'm going to say it's the 10-year-old Speyburn.
No.
Well, there's 2 left it could be.
Jimmy Leg, there's 2 Speyburns left that you have. It's not the 10-year-old, and it is age stated. You have one guess. You've used all your questions to whittle it down to the 2 possibilities it could be. This is you. Win or lose.
It's got to be the 15-year-old Speyburn.
Do you want to change your mind?
Apparently I do.
It is 15-year-old Speyburn.
Woo! No one else in the world.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
15-year-old Speyburn. That was a very weaselly maneuver on 12-year-old.
I thought I had you. You working from a spreadsheet, and I take you to the ropes. Let that be a lesson, Jimmy Leg. This is not an environment for spreadsheets and formula. This is gut. This is knowledge. This is you just going and riding with it. But you did. You took it. You took it right at the very end. But you left yourself exposed with a 50-50. Buddy, I'm very grateful. It's a privilege for me to be able to send you a sniper coin as well, my friend. Wonderful stuff, and well won too. For really, as Precarious Dave pointed out in the comments, he said, yes, very left field, and it was left field. Jimmy, are you going to stay on and participate in the quiz at the end with us?
I will never leave.
Fantastic, buddy. Fantastic. Congratulations, Jimmy Leg. Well done. Cheers. Magic. Oh, you couldn't have written it. 50-50 at the end, but he wins it. He takes it home. Well done, Jimmy Leg. I remember we just did something like that too, says Greg's Whiskey Guide. When you were on, Greg, Chris Mear is saying, you've been beaten 4 times in a row now. Who's keeping count? Maybe it's my turn to be up against the ropes. Did that start happening? Did I start getting beaten when we handicapped me with a timer? I don't know. I think I'm maybe taking it a bit too lightly. Maybe I should be studying. Maybe I should be paying a bit more attention. Maybe I should have studied a wee bit more on my Eastern Highland distilleries to remember an obscure left fielder like Macduff in the Devon range. Unbelievable. Falsgraf is saying, Jimmy Leg, it's very nice to see Mr. Leg at last. Steve A is saying, congrats. Vasil Glagola is in, and it looks like he won himself a coin. Vasil, I don't think I have your address. If you can email me, whisky@aquavitae.com. Watch the Aquavitae spelling. Whisky@aquavitae.com with your address, and I'll be happy to ship you out a wee sniper coin. Wonderful stuff. There's only one more thing to mention, and there's still 344 of you in. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the amazing support. One of the most common feedback, comments I'm getting on recycled reviews is, why is it taking so long? Why is it taking so long? So there's 15 bottles in a recycled review and they need to be empty. That's a lot of whiskey to drink. When I've got people coming into the house, it's easier to share and get through those bottles, but it's still a challenge. Why? Because you guys are so generous and you're sending me lots of these really cool samples for me to sit of an evening when I'm working away and I'm doing whatever, I'm sipping samples. There's independent bottles out there to enjoy, special limited releases, things that don't really have a place in a recycled review, so they don't get in there. There are repeat bottles that I have done what I say in the recycled review. The Deanston 12, the Buna, all of these here, actually. Do you think any of these 12-year-olds are still in existence from 2.5 years ago? These have been replaced. My top 5 have been replaced. So repeat bottles, you could argue if I've changed my mind or if I've got some new observations, it's worthy to put it in again, fine. But generally speaking, no. So it does take me a while to get through 15 bottles. And the recycled reviews will go out when I have 15 empties that are worthy of note, that's going to bring something that's interesting to talk about. And I apologise for that. Still, I'm super grateful for all the amazing support and all the amazing feedback on that last recycled review. If you haven't seen it, there's a wee bit of humour in it too, and I hope you enjoy it. The only people asking why are people who don't know whiskey, or maybe they don't understand that all those bottles, I don't have to have had every sip out the bottle. You know, one of the ones, the Booker's, was one given to me that was already opened. There was already a chunk out that bottle, but there's enough in that bottle for me to understand the whiskey very deeply, very well. And so much of them I'm going to have shared with people. So potentially I've only had half or maybe sometimes less myself. But it's the journey with the bottle. It's that neck pour through its development and the finish, and how it leaves you, what kind of mood it leaves you, and are you going to want to replace it or not? Falscraft is saying, I need to watch my time here. It's counting up to midnight. We're okay. I don't want to clash on the Scotch for Dummies event, but we're miles away from that. It's fine. About an hour from now, the Scotch for Dummies are going live, and I'm going to be very looking forward to joining those guys over there. And Drew Bills is saying, drink some water, Aquavite, and see you soon. John Della Cuisine, I'll be fine, Drew, don't worry. John Della Cuisine is saying, I need to go to bed, unfortunately. I know, it's an hour ahead as well. It's 1 AM for you. We'll catch the quiz on replay, and I can't wait till I get my Glenturret 12 to see it, if I like it as much as you do. John, please share back with not just me, but the community, genuinely how you got along with that. Chad Kiso is bought me a dram. He said, got a Flyroy NHL. Starts in 2 minutes. Keep up the great content. Let's go, Rangers. Well, I'm going to start the quiz anyway. So maybe, Chad, you can come in and pick up the quiz and see how you got on with that. It's going to be a tricky one tonight. The questions from Eric Cunliffe. And thank you very much in the meantime for your dram, Chad. Thank you all. We always close the vPub out on a quiz. It's fun. Sometimes tough, sometimes crunchy, sometimes a bit of a challenge, but hopefully the questions will always kind of make you think. It's always multiple choice, so you've always got a chance of getting the right answer. I welcome everybody to stay and enjoy a bit of quiz participation at the end. Johan Lundberg is saying some kind of record on viewers tonight. I think so. I did make a joke inside Patreon when I was talking to patrons. I did a wee article for them. And I kind of justified why I picked the subject and the topic for tonight, so that I could kind of talk about whiskey in general, just using the 12-year-old category as a bit of a clumsy lens, like as I keep saying. But I was kind of talking about it being potentially viewed as a wee bit lazy, but also potentially viewed as a wee bit clickbait. So we might have had a lot of traffic in here tonight because it's like my top 5, the best 12s and things. But I've got a good way of sorting out the audience. The people that stay are people that are invested and really into whiskey. They're not here for the quick, snappy things. It's not typical YouTube traffic I get. It's very much people that are into whiskey and community. The people that are willing to stay and listen to me monologuing for all of this time. Anyway, next week I have a fantastic guest on. We're going to talk about flavour, the flavour chase in whiskey. The thing that brings us back time and time again, we're going to be talking about the flavour in whiskey, where the flavour comes from, how it's defined, how it comes around, whether it's from the production, whether it's from the cask. And I couldn't imagine a better guy, somebody that's got a foot in independent bottling and a foot in distilling now as well. Alex Bruce, the managing director of Ardnamurchan Distillery and the Delphi bottlers. will be joining me next week, a week from tonight, to talk about the flavour chase. We might be able to get him talking about some Adelphi topics and things. We'll certainly be getting him to talk about Ardnamurchan. I'm going to be holding him to court and saying, why can I not buy any of your whiskey? Why? I'm not going to be evangelising about the new Ardnamurchan whiskies because we can't buy it. It's gone. It's disappeared. What's the story there? Talking about that, but talking about how, because that's a compelling whiskey for a 5-year-old new release. It's compelling. Very, very good whiskey. How that was arrived at and how he leveraged his experience in independent bottling. Say what you like about Adelphi, say what you like about what the releases that they have. They're all over the place in age and everything, typical independent bottler. They're very, very well known for their heavily sherried releases, honestly, but they're very well regarded, highly regarded for their quality, for the flavour, for the engagement. So that's happening a week from now. I hope to welcome you there. In the meantime, let's put the wheels on the quiz. Let's bring in my guests. If they're good, give me a thumbs up. If you're interested in coming back in to hang out. Alasdair's given me a thumbs up and Jimmy Legg has given me 2 thumbs up. Wonderful, guys. I'm very glad to have you here participating for a wee quiz at the end. As I say, the questions, excuse me, as Drew said, I do need to take a wee drink of water, maybe. As I said, the questions are not put together by me. If you score 10 out of 10 on this quiz, you give yourself the kind of dubious honour of being able to contribute questions that I can use in the quiz. Some of you put forward entire suites of questions like Eric Cunliffe has done tonight. These questions, all 10 of them, have been contributed by Eric. I took this quiz independently earlier myself. I did okay. I got a couple wrong. I won't share with you until we get to those questions what they were. But I wish everybody the best of luck. They're all multiple choice like every other quiz. And I have to say that some of the questions here are crunchy and he starts hard. So I think a lot of you might fall down in the first half of the quiz and have to recover in the second half. That's just my prediction. Alasdair, Jimmy, are you both ready?
I think so.
Good luck, everybody. Question 1 is a bit of a banana skin to start. According to the beloved Malt Whisky Yearbook, who is the 3rd listed company in the distilleries per owner section? So we have to kind of, the reason it's a banana skin here is we talk about the big 4, Diageo, Pernod Ricard, Edrington, and Grants. But he's asking, who's listed 3rd? Might not be relevant today, but this Whisky Yearbook now has been out there for a long, long time. So I think that's why maybe it's a wee bit of a banana skin. If you have the Malt Whisky Yearbook on hand, you're maybe going to just go into distillery per owner and just answer it. Maybe cheat, have a wee peek. But go with your gut and tell me, is it A, Beam Suntory, B, Inverhouse, or C, Edrington? There's a wee bit of a banana skin, right? Jimmy Legg is holding up his answer already. Have you got a piece of paper, Alasdair, or are you just waiting on me, just kind of shouting on you? I would have to say that Edrington own Macallan, Highland Park, Beam Suntory, Lefroy, Ardmore, Glengarioch, as we've spoken about tonight. They have Bemore, they have Auchentoshan. Inverhouse have 5, Balblair, they have Speyburn, Balblair, Old Pulteney, and Knockdew. Jimmy thinks it's Edrington. Alasdair, what would you answer?
I'm going to think A.
Beam Suntory,
Yeah.
Splitting right away. One of you are right, and it's Jimmy Legg. Edrington, yes, because there was once upon a time Edrington did used to own Glengoyne, and they also owned Tamdhu. And even, I think at one point they would they have owned Glenturret at one point? Yes, they would have. Of course, until very recently they owned Glenturret and Edrington. So yes, they were number 3. Question 2. Which distillery, demolished in 1976, is owned by William Grant and Sons? So we're looking at a closed distillery right back in the history books as well, a legendary distillery from days of old. Wasn't operational for a long time, if it helps. A, Ladyburn, B, Glenallachie, C, St Magdalen. It was demolished in 1976. Almost 45 years gone. And owned by William Grants. I guess that you guys both give me the expression of somebody who would be guessing right now. Jimmy, you're muted.
You don't want me unmuted.
I don't mind you. I do want you unmuted. I want us all to hear Jimmy Legg from Nova Scotia. Alasdair, do you know or are you guessing?
I'm guessing A.
Okay. Jimmy, both of you think it's Ladyburn. Absolutely. It was demolished in 1976, but now it exists. It's reborn. It's a bit of a phoenix again. Not exactly in the same form. It was just 2 pot stills originally. Now it's a much bigger affair. It's Ailsa Bay now. But it was demolished in 1976, part of the Girvan complex. If you see it bottled by some indies, you maybe not see it as Ladyburn. You might just see it labelled as Ayrshire. Question 3. On whiskyfun.com, what is Serge's least reviewed distillery that is still in operation? So there's some qualifiers here. Yeah. It's the least one he's reviewed. It's still in operation, and it was built before the year 2000, so it's not a new distillery to make it easy for you, right? Is it A, Speyside, B, Tamnavulin, or C, Kilchoman? Serge's least reviewed distillery. I find it fascinating. Whiskyfun.com remains one of the web's absolutely rock solid resources. Fully independent as well. Great fun. Angus McRail is writing for it now too. Just a great resource, and years and years and years of depth on it as well. Do you know this one, boys?
I think he's done a couple of Speyside, so I'm going to say B, Tamnavulin.
Okay, Jimmy Legg. Both of you think the distillery from White and Mackay. Well, the question tells us that it's a 50-50 because Kilchoman, as we know from Anthony Wills being on the vPub a few weeks ago, was first started distilling in 2005. So we know it's not that. So it's either Speyside or Tamnavulin. Speyside.
Damn it.
Speyside. When you think about that, I mean, it's been producing since 1990. It took a long time to build, but there's very few releases come out in the UK, very few for Europe. Certainly in recent years, everything goes to Asia from that distillery. I noticed you held up a bottle there. Was that the Tren or the 12? What was that?
That's a Trittina cask strength.
Okay, a cask strength release. Do you like it, Alasdair? Is it a good one?
A lot of people would say it's probably pretty boring whiskey, but it's non-chill filtered. It's natural colour, obviously cask strength. 45.
You're getting on okay with it. You quite like it, yeah.
I like it.
What did you pay for it?
About £45
for a cask strength release. That's not too bad. Non-age statement though, right?
Yeah, it's fine. It's more of a summertime whiskey, but it's a vanilla apple bomb, and it's easy enough to drink.
I was looking forward to the 12-year-old. I got a chance to try the 12-year-old. It was quite interesting before it came out, but it came out at quite a high price. So it's one of those ones I haven't engaged with yet. Question 4, again on whiskyfun.com. What is Serge's most frequently reviewed distillery? So the exact opposite of question 3. Eric, I have to say, really good couple of questions there. What's his most frequently reviewed distillery? No qualifiers for this one. So A, Highland Park, B, Bamore, or C, Colilla?
I know this one.
You do know this one?
Mm-hmm. I spent half my...
Okay, I didn't see what you were holding up there, Alasdair. Hold it a wee bit yet. Too slow is saying easy. Good for you, Rob. Dull packaging doesn't help this distillery, I have to say, in a NAS policy. The 12-year-old was interesting because it did break with that trend, but it does look like olive oil. But the biggest problem for me is that, like these bottles over my left shoulder here, all these super, super tall bottles, it's very difficult to fit into any cabinet because of how tall they are, and that's very much the issue with the Spey bottles.
Yeah, even taller.
Hold up your answers then, boys. Alasdair, show me what you think this one is. Highland Park, Bamore, or Colilla? Both of you think it's C, Colilla. A distillery with only 2 or 3 official releases. Well, 4 maybe. But you're absolutely right. It is Colilla. Colilla, 6.5 million litres coming out of that Islay distillery. So there's lots and lots of stuff available right across the market from lots of independents. And it's usually rock solid and reliable too. How are you scoring? 4 out of 4, Jimmy?
No, 3.
Oh, 3. Okay, 3 out of 4. Alasdair?
Just 2 at the moment.
I did say it's going to be a hard first half, and you maybe have to try and recover on the back 9, as we say. The picture question. Eric Cunliffe, he's cheeky. And he's asking, what distillery has this as part of the feature of their logo?
Oh.
A, Speyburn, raising its head again. B, Glenlivet. We've talked about it earlier. C, Alasdair. Also got a bit of a mention for the 12-year Caledonia. I thought I knew what bridge this was, but I was mistaken. So this is one of the questions I get wrong. I thought we were looking at Car Bridge, but we are not. This is a different bridge. Are you guys guessing this one? Alasdair thinks B, and Jimmy thinks it's C for Alasdair. B for Glenlivet. Let's see what the crowd thinks. Too Slow is calling this a banana skin and an ass hat. I got it wrong, so I'll agree with you, Rob. But I can tell you, interestingly, it's Glenlivet. So Alasdair pulled a point back there. Well done, Alasdair. Unfortunately for you, Jimmy, this is indeed Glenlivet. There's the new logo, the new branding, of fairly recent branding from Glenlivet there. Let's pick up this Illicit still, see if it's on there. No, it doesn't feature on the Illicit still, interestingly. So it's obviously something that they're using on their standard core range.
So that hasn't been on their bottles for 100 years, but the last one, yeah.
Yeah. I think a Glenlivet used to be like a thistle. I think it used to be like a wee thistle with a kind of fleur-de-lis style thistle thing. But now they're using the bridge, which apparently the Bridge of Cali, interestingly, which is on the Glenlivet estate, I've since learned. Question 6, according to Ralphie, what was his gateway whiskey given to him by his father? Try and keep it quiet. I know that Jimmy's excited about this one. I got this one too. Dogs Have No Uncles. Good to see you in, Colin. The label cutout is in a bridge shape, I think. Ah, wow. Do you know he's right? Would you look at that? Very cool. So this is the separator between the two labels. Is in a bridge. Well spotted. Dogs Have No Uncles. Well done, Colin. So let's see. A, Ralphie's gateway whiskey from his dad is A, Lagavulin 16, B, Talisker 10, C, Bunnahabhain 12. Anybody that's been watching Ralphie for long enough, he's mentioned it a few times over the years, and he talks about it. Has a love-hate relationship with the whiskey. Don't know if that helps anyone. Alasdair's going to stab a guess. Hold up your answer now, Alasdair. Let me see what you're answering. You think it's C, Bunnahabhain 12. Jimmy Legg is super confident, and he thinks that it's C as well, Bunnahabhain 12. I have to look into the lounge here and I can say, yeah, Yongo is saying easy peasy. Well done, Yong, absolutely. And the knowledgeable folk, certainly there's a huge overlap, I guess, with people that tune in here. Would probably be watching Ralphie too and know that absolutely it's Bunnahabhain 12. Well done, guys. Yellow Spot 12, you know what? The last Yellow Spot 12 I bought, Jimmy, was £54 and it was a bit pricey and I was happy to pay that. I looked it up recently. It's £72 here now. It's a lovely whiskey, but I don't know if it's a £72 whiskey, honestly. It's too expensive.
$99 here.
Yeah. How much?
$99.
So that's £50. That's similar to what I paid for it previously, right? It's Canadian dollars you're talking about, obviously.
The decline was 14.
Question 7. Which of these closed distilleries last ran their stills in 1998? And most interestingly, was out of production 60% of the time. This is the infamous fact about this distillery. It was out of production more than it was in production during its lifetime. Are we talking about A, Imperial, B, Glenflagler, or C, Colburn? Imperial, Speyside Distillery. B, Glenflagler was a Lowlander. C, Colburn. Also a Speyside Elgin, I think, from memory. Don't quote me on that in case I'm wrong. Are you guessing here, boys, or do you think you feel confident?
I'm guessing.
Jimmy's muted again. You're guessing, are you, Alasdair? Too Slow. Rob thinks this is a bit of a banana skin. I think it's a tricky one, honestly, but if you know the story, you know the story, and both of you have nailed it. Absolutely right. The Victorian Imperial Distillery came around, and I don't even think it was open 100 years in the end. It was round about the turn of the 19th to 20th century it opened. closed and finally it was demolished about 15 years or so ago. And now on that site, they have a brand new distillery in the shape of Dalmarnock is in that area. So it's another one of these Phoenix distilleries, but unfortunately the name Imperial is long gone. Still an affordable closed distillery. If you find Imperial, they can be fantastic. Very creamy, very malty. Sometimes they behave a wee bit like Clynelish. Might be a lot to do with the profile and the fact that it's been in a refill cask for a long time. But I've been enjoying a lot of fairly well-priced Imperial releases recently. Still quite a lot of it out there from independents. Question 8. Maybe a couple of asshats slipping in now. Before Diageo's monolithic rise as the current largest drinks company in the world, says Eric, there was a company who famously held that title, but he's asking what was the name of its founder. A. Henri-Louis Pernod. B. Joseph Seagram. C. Facundo Beccardi Masso. Henri-Louis Pernod, Joseph Seagram, or Facundo Beccardi Masso. So we're talking about a Frenchman, a Canadian, Jimmy, or a Spaniard. Jimmy looks confident. Alasdair's chewing on his cheek a wee bit here. He's not sure. Young-Go is guessing that it's Henri-Louis Pernod. Peter Box thinks it's B, Joseph Seagram. Kevin Grant thinks it's Joseph Seagram as well. Orange Wheel Rule, good to see you in. Malcolm Douglas is in. Lindsay Holman, Russell Whisky, Querty Aardvark. Fantastic to see you all in, even at this point in the proceedings. Jimmy can't hold his water, holding up B, but Alasdair is right there with him, and both of them snag themselves a point. It is absolutely Joseph Seagram of Seagrams.
Canada.
Yeah, Canada. Yeah, absolutely. Famously left their name in horse racing as well.
Not that famous. I didn't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Question 9. A wee bit of an assat here. In the second last vPub of 2020, Eric is asking, the Christmas Blind Challenge episode, Master Blender Michael Henry of Loch Lomond mentioned his favourite whiskey style. What was it? What did he mention? I don't think it's an asshat question, but the way he's constructed the answers, potentially. A, sherry bombs. B, ex-bourbon matured. Or C, aged scotches from refill butts. Lindsay Holman is saying 4 out of 8. Back 5 proving much less profitable so far. Unfortunately for you, Lindsay, sorry to hear that. My friend Bruno is saying 6 out of 8. Falsgraf has got a pass mark. Matthias is on 6 out of 8 pass mark. Des still needs a point for a pass mark. Whiskey 101 is already next on a pass on 5 out of 8. Guys, are you guessing this one? I gave you a wee bit of a clue. Hold up your wee pieces of paper now. Go ahead. Ex-bourbon matured, and C, aged scotches from refill butts. You see, there is a difference, but they are the same. It's not sherry bomb. It is either B or C. Ex-bourbon matured, we're talking about something that the previous incumbent has been bourbon, whereas a refill, specifically a refill butt, is going to be something that's previously held Scotch whiskey. So the answer we're looking for is B. Sorry, Alasdair. Well done, Jimmy. You were paying attention and listening a few weeks ago when Michael was on.
Not really. That's the correct answer, so.
Graham Young is saying Roy's favourite too. I would have to say yes, my favourite is probably a refill for a lot of years, but it would probably be American Oak ex-bourbon refill, if that makes sense. So it's been used for bourbon, either as a barrel or it's been made into a hog here. And it's had Scotch in it before, so it's a refill, maybe second fill or something. It's been left for long enough. There's still some cask activity there, but the environment plays a part, time plays a part. That's kind of, I know it's a bit romantic, but it seems to be where I find myself reaching. Let's see how the scores. How are you scoring, guys? Alasdair, how are you doing?
I'm on 6, I think.
Oh, yeah. And Jimmy's on 7. So both of you are over the line. You're over the 5 out of 10 pass mark. Steve Atkiss is on 7. Jimmy Jazz on 6. Well done, Jimmy. Well done, Steve. Mikey Hay. Mikey Hay, good to see you in. Hey, Mikey, something popped into my head recently. I was watching, I had to go back to an old vPub for something, probably a Jimmy Legg comment. And I welcomed you in for the first time, Mikey Hay, and we're going back to, I think, very early in 2018. It's good to have you here, buddy. It's good to have you in. But making a pass mark, Matthias, 7. Youngo on 5. Molasses, 7. Mark Making on 7. Graham Fraser, 8. I'm looking for high scores now. Graham Young on 9 out of 9. Wow, you look like you're cruising close. That's a brilliant score for these questions, Graham. Your fellow Canadian set them. Maybe he was playing to your strengths. Willie Dolly on 8 out of 9. Superb, Willie. Whiskey could be a cure for dementia, says my friend Willie. Just up the road. Superb. Final question, everybody. Thanks so much for hanging out. It's going to be a 2.5 hour at least stream tonight. But 10, what new distillery has announced they will begin with 5 core whiskey styles, including different spirit cuts, oak types, and even yeast varieties? 3 new distilleries, but which one has specifically talked about this strategy? A, Holyrood in Edinburgh, B, Ardnahoe on Islay, or C, Lag in Arran?
Didn't I just read about this?
I'm sorry?
Was this an article in the Malt Whiskey Yearbook?
Could
Very
be. Could be. I'm not sure where Eric
Well,
got
neither.
the questions, but I'm sure that some of them would have been mined from the Malt Whiskey Yearbook. So would it be which whiskey is talking about beginning with 5 different whiskey styles from the get-go? So
I know they've got a lot.
okay, both of you think it's Holyrood in Edinburgh, and both are answering A. And I have to say that while the crowd is split, it looks like a lot of you are agreeing with Jimmy and Alasdair. And I have to say, if you've answered A, give yourself a point. It is Holyrood in Edinburgh, new distillery out there. And apparently, and I learned this through doing this quiz, I guessed Holyrood and I was right. I'd kind of heard words to that effect, but I learned this tonight. It'd be interesting to go over and visit Holyrood when things free up a wee bit. So what does that leave your final scores at?
8 for me.
And 7
Great score, Jimmy. Well done. Did you scrape through and get a 7 out of 10, Alasdair?
Yeah, I've got 7. I'm happy. That was
Superb, superb. Again, Colin got a 7 out of 10 as well. Superb. Dogs Have No Uncles. Russell Whiskey on 5. Rule on 7. Too Slow Rob on 8 out of 10. Great score. Chris Schmierer. Oh my goodness, Chris. I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly. Chris Schmierer. I'm sure I've seen you in before, but it might be the first time I've mentioned your name. At 9 out of 10. Absolutely fantastic score. Graham Young has snagged his 10 out of 10. Congratulations, Graham. Great score. That's your fellow Canadian, Jimmy Legg. Knowledgeable folk over there in Canada. Maybe I don't think it helped at all that the questions were set by a Canadian tonight. I'm very grateful that they were. Excellent questions, a bit tricky, a bit crunchy, but interesting nonetheless. And I have to say, Eric, put together by somebody with a wee bit of passion and knowledge about whiskey as well. Would you agree, boys?
No, excellent. Superb.
Good.
And he's handsome.
And he's handsome.
Yeah.
Graham Young.
Great voice too.
Well, he has to because he's Canadian, of course. He has to be. Wonderful stuff. Guys, I don't... Come on, Jimmy. I don't want to have to say goodbye to you right now. So just... You'll drop into the green room again and let me bring you back on so I can raise a wee glass to thank you one-on-one. So stay in the if you can give me the time. In the meantime, Alasdair, thank you for everything that you've done for me, as I've already said last year. And Jimmy, thank you for being Jimmy Legg, honestly speaking. Thank you, buddy. Thank you for participating tonight. I'll raise a glass to you both and I'll speak to you shortly. Thank you. Cheers. Wonderful stuff. That was fun. Odd Johan Lundberg has bought me a dram and said, fantastic stuff. All the best for the new year. I echo your sentiments perfectly, Odd. Thank you so much, Odd Johan Lundberg, as well. And thank you for your virtual dram. Thank you, my friend. Wonderful interaction tonight. Wonderful audience. 2.5 hours. Still got 270 people watching. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to welcoming you all back here a week from now. I've been talking recently about extended opening and things, and I don't think I'm going to do what I did in the crazy shutdowns, even though there may be a demand for it. I found it difficult to keep up the content, and springtime it was tough, but I will put out extra content. I'm certainly going to be bringing out extra content for patrons. Absolutely, that's guaranteed. I will bring Sunday night content out again in some form of extended opening if this lockdown situation continues, because there are people stuck at home, and I know from your feedback from last year how much of an outlet it is. Twice a week is going to be too difficult. So I'm not going to promise what I can't deliver, but there will be the occasional extended opening as well. Patrons definitely are going to get it. Helen is saying, thanks for a fabulous vPub super stream. Thank you, Helen. Thank you for everything that you do, and thank you for being here as well. Paul Gibbs is saying, cheers, but Paul, wonderful to have seen you, and thanks for, very glad that I caught you, buddy. Bearded Whiskey, my friend Paul, on Twitter. Everyone's saying, fair winds all. Everyone, always a pleasure to have you in, and he's mentioning Jimmy Legg as well. Dancing Midgie saying, great night again, yet again. Mrs. Midgie has just appeared with a tray of cheese and biscuits. What a woman to love. You're a lucky man. You're a lucky man, Glenn. Oh, a big dram come in there from QWERTY Aardvark, which I think is Daniel. Consider this as a back pay for your archive I've been going through. It's great to see how much your channel has grown through the years. Here's a good start to 2021. That's a super, super generous dram. I'm suddenly nervous that I've maybe guessed your name wrong, but I think it's Daniel QWERTY Aardvark. Thank you very much for your very generous dram. And I hold up this super delicious Glenturret 12 to say thank you. Cheers. Love my Thursday nights hanging out with you all. I'll continue to try and bring the best topics and subjects and guests and everything I can throughout 2021. And with you here to help me, I don't see why that cannot happen. You're all very, very dearly loved, and I look forward to welcoming you all again next week. And until then, I'll raise a glass and say thank you to everybody for another enjoyable Thursday night for me. If you're willing and if you're able, stay awake for another half hour or so, and I'll see you on the Scotch for Dummies channel over there. Until then, Slanchiva. Oh, it's a cracker.